I would like to be on both if possible, but if it's not possible, good morning, YouTube. How's everybody doing this morning? I'm freezing. It's possible. It's possible. I'm like everybody else. Well, not everybody else, but while during the COVIDs, the Rotary meetings were on both all the time with this software. That's the other part. Yeah, that is yes, correct. Mm, damn it! I forgot to put a Red Bull in the fridge yesterday, so when I got here this morning, um, I put it in the little freezer part, and it froze too much. So I got like Red Bull slushy, which would be great if Red Bull didn't have that tiny, tiny, tiny little hole in the top. All right. What? No. Oh. Time for us to get a look at that forecast. Here is WBRZ meteorologist Marissa Nuzzo. Let's blow out 625 and talk fantasy football with Taylor. I forgot it's Thursday. Yeah. Nope. Let's move it up to the first segment. Yeah, problem solved. How about that? Let me go see if he was good. Okay. Yeah, it is. Oh, Crappers. Crapper John MD. I should invite Doug. No, no. There's something I got going on that I got to do a thing with a thing. Uh huh. 606. Talk 1073 FM, WBRP. Mornings with Brian Haldane. Coming your way. How about now? Brian here with you. Alondra producing. Good morning. Happy Thursday. Got a busy Thursday show for you. Here's what we're doing today. Thursday. Oh, well, Thursday's the beginning of the NFL week. So, in about 20 minutes, our own traffic guy, who also happens to be the host of the Fantasy Football Podcast, Taylor Sharp, going to swing on down the hallway for just a minute. We'll talk about 4 minutes worth of fantasy football. 4.5, probably. 6:35, Patrick Grimion joins me every Thursday to talk a little business. We will do that today as well. Um, can you be successful running your company from home? That is the nature of today's topic with Patty G. There's also another one I want to talk about with Patrick Grimion that we will cover before we're done this morning, and that is, how does your company feel about side hustles? Do you have a policy? Do you need a policy? I'm a big side hustle guy. I love the side hustle. Everything else just feels like, if you don't have a side hustle, then what are you even doing here? That's extreme. That's just for my life. But anyway, does your company have a side hustle policy, and how does it work? We'll talk with Patty G about that at 6:35. 7:15, you've got questions, we've got answers. I-10 construction, what's it really going to look like? We've been told a couple times in the past week now that it's going to be down to one lane for a 4-mile stretch for over a year. Okay. We've been told that things can be done much cheaper than they have to be. Okay. We've been told that the overpass, the bridge over the LSU Lakes, doesn't really need to come down. We've been told that the number of things that DOTD wants to do might not be the right thing, And I got to tell you, the amount of feedback I've gotten off the air about this has been greater than any amount of feedback I've seen on anything. Close. DOTD Secretary Shawn Wilson going to join me at 7:15. We're going to get into it. I'm going to ask him all these questions and more. 7:35, you know how we do on a Thursday. Let's catch some bad guys. Crimestoppers coming your way. Lieutenant Don Coppola will be in studio. 8 o'clock hour, 8:15. Again, you've got questions. We've got answers. This time, let's talk about carbon sequestration, carbon containment. Let's talk about storing CO2 under Lake Maurepas. Are there dangers? How was it done? What is the benefit? Dr. John Purdue from LSU. I'm going to have the folks from Air Products on later on, the company that's putting the whole thing together. We'll talk to them in short order. But I wanted to step away from, yesterday we talked with Greg Bowser from the Louisiana Chemical Association about it. We've talked with Lobby about it, I believe. I wanted to talk to let's talk to the scientists behind this. Not behind it, but that would understand it. We've had Dr. Purdue on the show before. Looking forward to having him on again. So, is it dangerous to put a whole lot of anything underneath a lake? We'll chat at 8:15. Going to wrap up the guest list with Mike Rinder at 8:35. Mike Rinder wrote the book on escaping Scientology. Literally wrote the book. It's called A Billion Years. And the book is available now if you'd like to go get it. Oh, that's the wrong one. So he wrote the book A Billion Years, My Escape from a Life in the Higher Ranks of Scientology. We actually recorded this interview yesterday, and I was fascinated. In fact, I believe at one point I told him I've only got like 16 or 17 more questions for you, so let's get moving. It's not a 16 or 17 question interview. It's only one segment long, but I could have kept going with this guy forever. I find the entire story, the surrounding story, all of it to be just unbelievably just mind-blowing. Mike Rinder at 8:35. Right now, though, we got to start off by looking ahead to next November as things are going to start to stack up and get in place. Attorney General Jeff Landry has announced he's running for governor. No real surprise here. We kind of already knew this, right? That means he's going to have more than a year's worth of campaigning and fundraising. You'll hear more about this in our news at the bottom of the hour when Louisiana Radio Network hops on board. Jeremy Alford from Law Politics says this comes as a little surprise in political circles as Landry has been, well, the words Alford uses is walking for governor up until now.
For a couple of years now, aggressively fundraising, putting the pieces in place, and of course now he's kind of out the gate.
Landry's intent to run has been the topic of speculation for months, and he's not the only one. I mean, we all know who the big three are that on the Republican side that are expected to be in it. John Schroeder is, I don't know if he's officially in or all but in, as state treasurer wants to move over to the governor's seat. And we all expect Billy Nungesser at some point to throw his hat in the ring as well. Back in September, people were seen at Landry's annual alligator hunt wearing Landry Governor 2023 logo and gear. Alford says he with Landry's announcement, it was a 6-minute campaign video that kind of spelled things out well in advance of next year's election.
I think Jeff Landry is letting the other candidates that are possible candidates that are looking at this field know, that he intends to be the top dog in this race.
And that's going to be an important thing. Everything's going to be an important thing. Because when you break down those three, when you break down Jeff Landry, Billy Nungesser, John Schroeder, in no particular order, what's going to be most important to you as a Louisianan? What's going to be most important to you as a voter? First guy out, first guy throwing his hat in the ring? Absolutely. That's going to play into it. Your takes on the issues? Absolutely going to play into it. Your ability to work with the legislature? Probably should play into it. Although we're kind of at a place right now in politics where thumbing your nose to playing nice with others tends to win you more support than being able to be pragmatic and getting something done. The ability to fundraise, above all, is going to be an important factor. And the first guy in gets the jump start on that. Now, the flip side is, I know we're long, don't worry. The flip side is the first guy in is also the first guy up on the bullseye. He's the first guy to go sit in the Duncan booth at the parish fair. He's the first guy that everybody gets to throw their rocks at before anybody else. Once you're officially in the ring, you are officially a target. He's the first guy on that front. One more for Alford. And that is the nature of the job these guys hold before running for governor. Whether it be treasurer for John Schroeder, we definitely have money problems, and the treasurer's doing a great job there. Whether it be moving from the lieutenant governor's office to the governor's office, and Billy Nungesser's done a terrific job as lieutenant governor, or how about the high crime rate in Louisiana, where Jeff Landry, as AG, is going to have a strong stance there.
I think there will be policy implications, possible implications for the way the department is structured, and that's all going to be discussed.
Discussed ad nauseum. We got like a year and a month. Buckle up and stay buckled up. Right now, though, we got a break. Coming back, talking sports next on Talk 107.3. Rice and Roofing. Rice and Roofing. They do. They do. I got myself a, I like the Jasmine roof. I can't load today's playlist, so I don't know what up with that. I can't zero out your stop sets. I also don't like the term stop set, but it's a music term, not a talk radio term. But it don't make no sense from our end. How long do I have? Okay. I'm going to let Taylor in the building. Not Taylor. Patrick in the building. Hey, good morning, Christy. Welcome in, boo. Going to be a little bit warmer today. Probably about 85, 86. A little bit warmer tomorrow as well. Going to cool off again on Saturday. I'll be right back.
Hey guys, what kind of vibe are we feeling for the bumps today? Because I don't know. I'm running out of my library up in my head. I'm running out. Oh yeah, fair enough. I forgot that YouTube doesn't hear them.
Yeah. All right. Okay, I had to poo-poo. I had to relaunch the application. Cock-a-poo-poo. Hmm. 618, Talk 107.3 FM, WBRP, Sports Time. Ran long in the opening segment, so like Archie Bell and the Drills, we're going to have to tighten up right here. 8th-ranked Tennessee coming into Tiger Stadium with a 4-0 record this Saturday. Last time out, Tennessee defeated Florida 38-33. That was in Knoxville on September 24th. They had a bye week last week. Gators quarterback Anthony Richardson had a big game, throwing for 453 yards and 2 touchdowns. He also rushed for 62 and 2 scores. Jane Daniels, similar skill set, dual threat quarterback. Vols coach Josh Heupel says they need to make sure Daniels does not beat them with his legs.
The quarterback run absolutely is a huge part of the football game. And that can be in some read game, but also just as the pocket breaks down or he goes through his progression, his ability to escape. The way they finish runs is probably a little bit different just in their style, but absolutely the mobility of the quarterback is a huge part of us having to defend that in this football game.
I love that that's what he's looking at in a week where LSU's inner focus is on throwing the ball more. Yes. Keep an eye on Daniels' legs, Josh Heupel. Keep both eyes on Daniels' legs. Ignore number 7. No, he's not going to. Nobody's ignoring number 7. LSU has shown the ability to come from behind in games this season. I mean, mostly because they've gotten slow starts every game. Heupel says they'll need to play well for 60 minutes in order to win in Baton Rouge.
Well, just for us, you got to understand that if you're up on the scoreboard, it doesn't matter. We talk a lot about playing at 0-0 for 60 minutes. The way they play and compete, no matter what the scoreboard looks like, you have to be prepared for their best for 60 minutes. They are a resilient team. They've done a really good job of creating turnovers, making special teams plays, creating short fields, and flipping the way the game's played.
Kickoff is 11 a.m. in Tiger Stadium. I believe Eagle 98.1's game day probably starts at what, dawn? Yeah. Yeah. It was right at 6:20. No. Here's the problem. Is Friday nights are reserved for tequila and blue bloods, right? Me and Christy drink tequila and watch blue bloods on Friday nights because we're boring. Rocco laughed at me last week, so Suits is good. But my thing is, if network pregame starts at 9, I've probably got to be on campus before 7. So if I've got to be on campus before 7, I've got to be up slightly before 6. If I've got to be up before 6, how much tequila can I drink on Friday night and produce a 2-hour pregame, a 4-hour game, and an hour and a half postgame? We drink the celebrity tequilas. So I don't know. Tequila snobs look down on them, but they're just so good. Like Casamigos, what's Guy Fieri's? Santos, 818, which I think is like a Kardashian or somebody. Ron White has a tequila? What's it called? I will find out. I don't see any spots in the log in the 7 o'clock hour at all. Like, is there just not a 7:15 break today? Yeah, me neither. Like, literally, there's a 15 seconds break at 7:15. That's it. That's good. Let's get Shawn Wilson in here and do more. Morning, Taylor.
What's up?
Oh, you know.
Yeah, I spilled my entire Yeti cup.
Full of what?
That was just water.
Oh.
All over the floor.
Okay.
shopping this weekend, guys.
Yeah. You're not just trusting that you're going to win the ESPN Pick'em challenge. We're not eligible for that because we work here.
So here's the thing. I also
Yeah, I did that. I forgot to submit my picks. What week was it? Every week.
forgot.
I've not.
I didn't get any points. Why do you Thursday?
I know. I'm not thinking about it. Yeah. And why can't you just like submit picks and forego that one? Like, okay, let's just assume I lost Thursday. I'll take the rest. 624, Talk 107.3 FM, WBRP, mornings with Brian Haldane, rolling right along. Thursday mornings, we get you ready for the week in the NFL as Thursday night, Sunday night, and Monday night. Westwood One's coverage of the NFL is right here on Talk 107.3 FM. But we talk a little fantasy football in this segment every Thursday as Taylor Sharp, co-host of the Fantasy Football Podcast, joins us. Taylor, good morning. How are you, man?
Good morning. I am tired.
Are you now?
I am.
Are you now? With the lot going on down in the traffic center?
Just trying to fight through this week, man.
Yeah.
It's a long week.
Weird week. It is a weird week. Yeah. All right, we got to start with Nyheim Hines. I don't think there's a better place to start because Jonathan Taylor for the Colts is out. He's, rostered in 100% of leagues, starting in 100% of leagues.
You would imagine.
And now he's out. So is Nyheim Hines the go-to? You should probably have him as a handcuff to begin with.
I think so, yeah. I mean, because, look, he's a guy that gets a lot of work in the passing game anyways. Doesn't typically carry the ball a lot, but he's going to tonight. And a guy that's going to carry the ball a lot and get that work out of the backfield, if nothing else, he's probably going to have a pretty safe floor tonight because Denver's defense has not lived up to their standard this year.
So let's talk about that since that is tonight's game. Who else are we looking for in tonight's game?
Jerry Jeudy and Cortland Sutton, both of those guys. Look, the Colts started the first 2 weeks of the season really strong on defense. They just weren't winning games. Got exposed a little bit in the passing game, though, and they were supposed to have a great secondary. That's not the case. And Jeudy and Sutton, they're able to find those open holes in the zones. I think both of them are going to catch a decent number of balls.
I like the emergence of Jerry Jeudy a little bit because if you looked at week 1 and week 2, it was Cortland Sutton and nothing else. Seeing Jeudy pop up a little bit is good for those that have Russell Wilson to begin with.
So sticking with this game, I know everyone's going to start Michael Pittman on the other side. Watch out for Alec Pierce. He's been a strong waiver wire pickup this week. You go look at what he's done the last couple of weeks. 5 catches or more in the last 2 weeks, over 60 yards or more in the last 2 weeks in back-to-back games. He kind of looks like the number 2 option there outside of Michael Pittman. I think he's going to catch some balls tonight.
One more. Wait, who was that again?
Alec Pierce. Rookie wide receiver out of Cincinnati.
I'm seeing if I can add players right now. Okay, one more for tonight, and that's the running back position in Denver. We saw some shakeups. Latavius Murray plays well for the Saints on Sunday, and then magically appears in Denver on Monday. Does this mean fewer touches for Melvin Gordon? Is it worth picking up Latavius Murray off the waiver wire if he's available in your league? Is there from a headline perspective, from a football fan's perspective, this garnered a lot of attention, but from a fantasy perspective, should this garner any attention?
He came up, but he's one of those guys that, like, if you have deeper leagues and you have a bench spot that's available, go ahead and pick up Latavius Murray. This is going to be a Melvin Gordon heavy game. They're not going to give Murray a ton of carries. They signed him 3 days ago.
Right.
He's not going to get a ton of carries on a Thursday night game. Gordon's going to be fine. I think he can be a productive back. He has fumbled 4 times, and they've only played 4 games this year. He continues to put the ball on the turf. I think they're going to go to Latavius Murray over Mike Boone. So, yeah, he's a guy that you could stash and see what happens.
Let's move over to Seahawks and Saints. Alvin Kamara, very hit or miss from a fantasy from a playing perspective this year so far, as he's missed 2 games already. The Saints are in a position right now where it's getting closer and closer to must-win situations already, and it's only 4 games in. Kamara as a starter this week.
I think Kamara's one of those guys, if he's healthy, you have to start him. It's not an ideal situation with his injury or a matchup, but in all likelihood, you drafted him early. You don't have a better option.
What about Chris Olave out
I
wide?
was saying because, Jarvis and Michael Thomas, they're still iffy with their health situations. Thomas did not practice yesterday, so it's one of those things where Olave is going to be the number one guy. Andy Dalton could get him the ball. I think he could have a big game. I would not start DK Metcalf. I think that Marshawn Lattimore is going to have a bounce back game after getting a little bit exposed from Justin Jefferson. I think he's going to have a bounce back week.
I tend to agree with that. Got any sleepers for this week?
I mean, Naheem Hines.
Well,
Naheem Hines is my big sleeper.
we're going to have to redefine the term sleeper because that's,
He would be the big one. Also, Latavius Murray. If Melvin Gordon puts the ball on the ground, I think they go to him.
One more question for you. We only got like a minute left, and I'm trying to find last week's box score. Bailey Zappi, is this guy worth rostering?
I think so. I mean, he can flat out throw the ball. He looked okay against a tough Packers defense. Also, keep in mind, Kenny Pickett's out there too, and he's going to get the start in Pittsburgh. Now, don't start him this week because he gets his first start against the Buffalo Bills, poor guy. But I put out a waiver for him and see what he does because he had 2 rushing touchdowns in his first game. I understand he had 3 picks. If he can cut down on the turnovers with the rushing numbers, I think he's a solid pickup too.
Grab and stash, one of my favorite things to do. All right, I got to get you back down the hall for the next traffic report. Always appreciate it. Check out the Fantasy Football Podcast at 1045ESPN.com. CBS News coming your way in just a minute. Got to remind you about the folks over at Complete Collision Center. You know where to find them. They're on Plank Road in Zachary. They're on Perkins at Bluebonnet. Certified by just about everybody out there. More than a dozen major car manufacturers have certified Complete Collision Center, and they have the iCar Gold Class certification. Latest techniques, up-to-the-minute knowledge of the computer systems that are built into your car, everything really that's built into your car, from crumple zones to safety redundancies and the like. Look, when you're in an accident, getting your car back out of the road is important. Getting your car back out of the road safely is their priority. Your family's safety is their priority. Check them out online, CompleteCollision.com, CompleteCollision.com, or you can call them, 768-9898. Don't let who you choose to repair your vehicle be your second accident. Check out Complete Collision. Pew, 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 pew. Oh, wait, I have the wrong show on. No, that's that guy running for Congress. I had a goatee for a hot minute. I didn't like it. I was fat at the time, though. I don't know. I didn't like it. I don't like facial hair. It's wasteful and dirty. Energy.
Facial hair.
Energy. Sweat for no reason.
Or is it the new weight loss program?
No, because you hang
Grow a
around all
beard.
kinds of food. Morning, T-Bob.
But maybe that food's just saved for later,
Right. So you're not going to lose weight then.
This is true. Are you an everyday shaver, Brian? You shave every day? Every morning? Do you subscribe to any razor?
Dollar Shave Club.
Dollar Shave Club? Okay.
Yep.
What made you go with them?
Advertising. No.
What?
So first of all, the name Dollar Shave Club, and my razors, my blades cost $4, not $1,
Mm-hmm.
because I got the 4-blade one.
$4
but
per razor?
They're remember their very first marketing campaign? No, it's a 4-pack.
Okay.
So
So it's $1.
I guess it is, yeah.
$4 for a 4-pack. It's $1 a razor.
And then I'll get other stuff sometime, like the butter, shave butter.
Ooh, I've heard good things about shave butter.
It's a game changer.
It's good.
But like, if I'm not using their shave butter, I'll use shaving cream from the dollar store, and it's okay. It does just fine. But shave butter is such a game changer.
Is that like your date night routine? If y'all go on a date night, you get some shave butter instead of the dollar store shaving cream?
Yes, both times out of the year that we actually go on a date, I'll use shave butter instead of shaving cream. But no, I like my dollar store shaving cream. It smells like the ocean. No, it doesn't. It smells like salt.
What brand do you use? Is it Edge or whatever? It's got like the black can with the white
No,
top.
Edge is like a name brand. Like I use like dollar store stuff. I don't use
Oh.
Barbasol. I use the cheap stuff.
Gotcha. I'm a Harry's guy myself.
So I would have given Harry's a look, except that I've already got my Dollar Shave Club thing. It's so simple. They make it simple.
Yeah.
So the kind of the guerrilla marketing they did to get started with they were completely bonkers and off the wall with their like 2-minute long YouTube commercial. And it was fantastic. And I'm like, you know what? I'll give them a look. That looks like fun. That looks like fun. So I did that. But they make it super simple with you get an update. You've got, your next order ships in a week. Do you want to add anything to it? And you don't have anything added unless you're in control. Like I want to add this, but I only want to add it one time, or I want to add this, and I want this part of my monthly.
Yeah.
Like whether it be the shave butter, or a new stick, or the butt wipes.
You use the butt wipes?
I have.
I feel like they'd be good after a good day of tailgating,
Yeah.
But don't flush them now.
See, and that's why.
Yeah, because then you got to put them in the garbage can. That means you got to empty that frequently. That's nasty.
Yeah, I flush them anyway.
Brian, have you not seen the billboards?
Yeah, I've seen the billboards.
So Harry's does the same thing, right? Subscription model. Yes. You get the email. You can adjust or add things. What I like about Harry's, and I don't know much about Dollar Shave Club. I didn't look into them. But with Harry's, you can get like shampoo, body wash.
Oh, they have all that.
Yeah, so like I get literally underarm deodorant. So it's like I get everything from Harry's. Hair product, like everything comes from Harry's. So when I get this box, it's like my hair product, my razor blades, my shaving cream, my body wash, my shampoo, underarm deodorant, like everything comes. And I set up the intervals, and they learn how often you use it, when is a good time to send it based on your order history. And it's like, oh, this is fantastic. And then you can do like skip this time if you didn't use everything from the last time.
Yeah. I like that too.
It's like it's nice.
But and see this is where it gets fun is I'm not the only one using it. So like my wife uses the razors, and now my oldest daughter uses the razors. Probably only a year from Abby using the razors as well. So
yeah.
You get so much more out of the membership.
Charlotte will use them if she forgets hers like on vacations or whatnot. She's like, hey, can I use your razor? And it's like, fine. Because it just gives that such a good close shave. But it's not, I mean, don't get me wrong, it's not designed well and properly if you're going to like shave other parts of your body outside of your face.
What design changes do you need to shave your leg?
So have you ever looked at a woman's razor?
Not closely.
So look at the heads next time and compare them. They're different. They're
thinner.
Well, they're thinner, and they've got a little different curve to them, so it can go around your legs and everything.
A curve on the blade?
No, like on the actual head itself. It forms a little bit better to the skin, whereas I feel like men's is kind of more.
Hang tight. Time for us to get a look at your forecast. Here is WBRZ meteorologist Marissa Nuzzo.
Whereas like the men's are more kind of rigid and rectangular. I'm telling you, just look at a woman's razor next time.
I've used
and you'll see the difference
before.
Yeah, I'm not saying they both don't get the job done. They're just slightly different. But Harry's has they have a women's division called Flamingos.
Okay.
And so it's like they sell all the women's products you would need.
.638 Talk 107.3 FM, WBRP. Time to talk a little business. We do this every Thursday. Patrick Grimion, host of the Patty G Show, joins us as he does right now. Patrick, what's happening, man?
Good morning, Brian. Happy Thursday.
Right?
You ready for that cool front coming in this weekend?
Yeah, is there a cool front? Yeah, it's slight. It's slight. I'll take it. I'll take every ounce of it as we continue to tick down towards the fall weather.
It's like a fall preview. We had fake fall last week. Now it's fall preview.
Yeah, you get fall preview next, and then maybe actual fall by Christmas.
I wouldn't get your hopes up.
Yeah, me neither.
Christmas in shorts. That's Louisiana's. That's what we're known for, right?
Yep. All right. So there's a couple things we need to talk about today. From that, we often dive on into the entrepreneur space a little bit, and most entrepreneurs start out of the home before you're, renting a space for a business. Before you make that investment into that next level of your business, you're starting from the house, and this presents a number of challenges. Let's get very basic to start off, and then work from there forward. What are the biggest challenges on that home front start?
Two things. One, if COVID's proven anything, the biggest challenge is going to be distractions from working at home.
Mm-hmm.
And secondarily, having that professional feel within your business from the jump, right? So, for example, this week on the show, we had Colleen Wagisback of Fig and Dove and Colleen Wagisback Interior. She started out of her home.
Okay.
And she worked out of a spare bedroom above the garage and whatnot, and her kids really didn't even know she was there. And so when you look at starting out your business at home, if you have client-facing interactions, well, now you're inviting them to your home. So how do you create an environment that shows, A, you're serious about what you do, and B, you have a legitimate business you're running, and you're not just doing this because it's a great hobby?
Okay, so if you have client-facing interactions, how do you overcome those challenges?
Yeah.
I'm asking.
I think it all depends on where you meet them. For example, when you came on the show, we were recording them at my house.
Yeah, your back porch.
On the screen porch.
Yeah, like that 1 week you weren't drinking. I remember. Everybody else is like, have a beer. I go on, it's like, no, I gave up drinking. And then like the next day, it's like, hey, let's have more beer. Oh, see.
You came during Lent, man.
I did.
You caught me during Lent.
I did.
But that being the home-based business, right? So how can you put on not necessarily put on a front, but I think it's if you're having Zoom meetings, make sure you have your background set up to where it looks like you're legitimate. Don't have like necessarily your closet with your clothes hanging in there.
Right.
Get a white sheet or something that just gives a blank background.
So can you like go down to Party City and maybe get a backdrop that looks like looks like the inside of a great library, like it's just rows and rows of law books or something?
Look, they make like brick wallpaper. Just go put that up behind you.
Right. Yeah.
So if you're doing something like that where you're meeting your clients digitally, that's a whole lot easier. If you're meeting them face to face, look for potentially meeting up in a coffee shop or something, like initially, unless you have a home that you're confident and comfortable with bringing people in.
Okay, so I'm glad you brought up the coffee shop thing, because this is one where I feel like it's played out and it actually presents the wrong first impression.
Why? How so?
Because I'm not writing a term paper.
Okay.
Hey, like if I'm going to a coffee shop, that's who I'm expecting to see. I'm expecting to see banged up MacBooks with stickers all over them. Like that. Where's that next level? And this is where I'm wondering if this is going to take off at Baton Rouge. The shared office space, the short-term rental office space, the Airbnb for office space.
So the short-term rental office space and the Airbnb of offices, when I think about that, it sounds great in theory, but when you're talking about people just getting off the ground with little to no expendable cash to rent that stuff, every dollar counts. So even renting a shared office space, if at a reduced rate, that still can be a burden. If you have to buy equipment, you have to buy, especially if you're in like product sales or something, you have to buy inventory. Your money is going to be better spent there and using the home you already have than maybe going and doing a shared office space.
Okay. It's an idea that I find very curious to be like.
It's a great idea.
Hey, I'm setting up all my potential client meetings on one afternoon. Let me rent an office for a day and have everything, ready to roll in a professional manner with, AV materials for presentations and whatnot,
So you could do that, or maybe if you know somebody who has an office, ask them if you can just borrow their conference room or something.
Okay.
Because not every conference room is occupied all the time.
Right.
For example, at the accounting firm, we've got 2 conference rooms. It's not booked up 24/7.
Yeah.
And so we've had people come in, like Scott with Currency Bank. They used to come and have their board meetings there.
Yeah.
Because they were still building, still working to get to the point where they had their own. And it gave that feel of, okay, we're in a professional environment, we're in a professional setting, if you can't get out of the headspace of coffee shops are more than just for writing term papers.
The other part of this is most, I'm sorry, we'll pause on that one because I want to talk about this in the next segment. Let's go back to the other challenges of starting from home. and one of the big ones is the concentration factor.
Yes.
There has been, no shortage of books, blogs, websites, all kinds of material to read up on the tips and hacks of how to block out the other distractions from the house. Is there anything really like, there's no real sage-like advice outside of you just have to do it?
That's ultimately what it comes down to.
I mean,
You have to have enough self-focus to block out that stuff. For example, I'll be working from home tomorrow and Monday with Quentin so I can watch him. And I have to figure out a way to set up my computer where I can take calls, I can work with people, and also handle an 11-month-old running around on the floor.
right.
Like, you can't just, there's some times where you have to step away and handle the situation, if he's about to slam his finger into the garbage can or whatnot. You just have to step away and handle that. But you also have to figure out a way to minimize those distractions. So
Yeah.
if you're, for example, if you have a room in your house that can be sealed off, that can be a dedicated workspace, and you have older kids or not, you can say, look, this is where I'm working, don't come in here. Or if you have younger kids and you can set up like a pack and play or something to maintain their location, then that's something that you can do as well. And then when you have that sealable door, now you get into a tax benefit side of things.
Hey, speaking of tax benefit sides, there's a home office tax deduction
Yes.
that I don't know if everybody knows about. I didn't know about it when I filed my taxes.
So there is a home office deduction. It's not allowable for employees. It's allowable for business owners.
Right.
And the rules on it are you have to be able to seal off the room. You have to have only business use items in there. So if an auditor knocks on your door and says, we want to see your home office, you can't go to your master bedroom and there's a desk in the corner and say, well, this is it, but I'm taking the whole master bedroom square footage.
Okay, but like at the same time, though, that woman you mentioned earlier who started out in a bedroom above a garage so she could be separated from her kids, and there's a bed in there. It's a bedroom. There's a dresser. It's not just a home office at that point. I don't know that the home office is going to be exclusively office.
And that's where it becomes an item that gets looked at very closely on your tax return.
Yeah.
If you have a home office, I'm not saying it's going to raise a red flag per se, but it's going to give somebody a second look to see, okay, if their total square footage of their home is 1,500 square feet and they have an 1,000-foot home office, something's up here.
Do I have to put the square footage of the home office on the tax?
Yeah, because you can only take a portion of the expenses.
Yeah,
so the way it works is if you have a 10 by 10 room, you got 100 square feet, and you have a 1,000-foot square house, 10% of your home is now your home office. That means you can take 10% of all of your expenses associated with the home.
Okay, well, we're going to break here because we're going to check traffic in your money now. But honestly, we're going to break here because if I start getting triggered by the idea that the IRS is auditing home offices with their 87,000 new IRS agents, let me just cool the blood pressure.
I'm not going to lie, that is one of the parts they're going to be auditing, by the way.
I know. Let's take a break. We'll check traffic. We'll check your money now. We'll continue talking business with Patrick Gremion, host of the Patty G Show, next, right here on Talk 107.3 FM. Sorry, I didn't know if you wanted to go through these item by item or you just wanted me to hit the highlights.
So when I found that, I started reading through. I was like, oh, this is great. But then I kept getting further and further down, I'm like, this is more of a generic article on how to start a business.
Well, yeah, because by the time
It's
it was
not
number 15,
home office specific.
we're about renting your office space.
Yeah.
Keeping your costs low and yeah.
I'm like, okay, let's take away the nuggets out of this 30 and talk about, starting from home, starting in your garage, your Jeff Bezos type stuff. Because if not, you could just spend an hour talking about those 30 items because
there's one more item on here that, or two more actually, they tied together though. Identify your target market and.
Okay, yeah, but that's just starting a business. That's just part of what you have to do to get your business off the ground.
And create your small business's identity. Yeah, that has nothing to do with if you're at home or in an office.
Yeah. Well, and so the angle of the coffee shop. Bless you. Ties in for like the guest this.
Not with that attitude.
Ties in for this week's show with Colleen because I'm sure she didn't have people over to come sit in her house.
If you're an interior, is it interior design?
It's interior design.
Okay, then you should be going to the client.
Right.
Let's meet at your space that I'm going to be working on.
Right.
Let me start in with ideas. You don't have to come to me. It doesn't matter what my place looks like, although you probably want to have the best place possible. And, but let me come to you. Hey, one thing we didn't touch on when it came to the coffee shop versus the short-term rental is the public library has fantastic facilities. But if you meet at the public library, you might as well meet at the bus station.
So why? Why does it give off that persona?
I don't know.
Like, is that just a you thing, or like is?
I don't think it's me.
Okay.
Okay. YouTube, let me know on this. If you were looking to do business with somebody and they said, yes, let's meet at the library on Goodwood, I've reserved a conference room. Would you peace out right there? Would you even bother showing up to the meeting?
I would, wholeheartedly. Because I know that they're scrappy and they know that the library has conference rooms. I didn't even know the library had conference rooms. So they've already got to step up.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm impressed now.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Meet me by my bus locker. It just, there's that vibe. You would get the same facilities that you would get by a short-term rental.
Yeah. And it's free.
Yes. Yes.
Like, why look down on somebody because they're just meeting at the public library because maybe that's all that they can afford because that's where their business is right now.
Right.
If they're spending every dollar they can to get it off the ground. I mean,
I'm going to invest my money in my business with this schlub who can't afford to do anything but,
I mean, is he a schlub or is he getting started?
I mean, we're we're like 20 feet away from story time and they're reading Dr. Seuss over here and we're in a conference room and like, it's weird though. Like, and that's,
but why is it weird? I would so if somebody asked me to meet in the library, I inevitably would bring up within the conversation, depending on how it goes. So what made you decide to meet here? It's a very open-ended question, and it allows them to kind of give an explanation, whether it's, because the office is in renovation, or, I'm currently looking for space and we didn't lock it down prior to this meeting, or, I work out of my home and so I wanted to meet somewhere else. Okay.
I see. I work out of my home and I want to meet somewhere else. It's a good one. It's a good one.
Okay, yep. Great. That sounds good. Or if somebody's saying, well, we're currently investing our dollars here, not in office space.
Okay. Byron inadvertently answers the question best, or closest to what I was thinking. He says, sure, if the meeting is boring, I can entertain myself with the vagrants fighting for the restroom. That's the whole, there's so many variables with who's walking in and out of the library that you have to sift through all that. But again, I would go back to same thing with the coffee shop.
Okay, so let me ask you this. Because having business meetings over coffee is becoming more and more common. Where do you stand on business lunches and or business breakfasts?
Zealand Street Market, 1,000%.
Okay, but you're still going to have people in the background talking and chit-chatting. You could also, if it's a Friday, run into a young couple and an 11-month-old throwing food.
It's possible.
We were those people.
No, it's possible.
A week ago.
652 Talk 107.3 FM, WBRP. Mornings with Brian Haldane, rolling right along. Got a great conversation going on YouTube right now. Check us out. It's Mornings with Brian Haldane on YouTube. It was the only option for an hour yesterday. Hop on board and subscribe if you like what we got going on over there. As we went into break, I threw a little bit of a curveball to get back into the topic of working from home but setting up business meetings. Where do you have that space? And we were debating in the last segment between a coffee shop, a French truck, or what's the one that's at Red Stick Social? I like
City Roots.
City Roots. It's like my favorite one around. So do you do?
You can't tell me they don't have a business vibe to them.
So when you're opening up your laptop and spreading out papers all over the ottoman that's in front of you,
okay,
and you're in a low-seated bench,
okay,
it's a cool vibe. It's a hip vibe. I don't know if it's a professional vibe.
So have you ever explored and had different meetings outside of Baton Rouge, outside of Louisiana with people?
Not really.
Okay.
Haven't had any. I mean, I
think that may just be a
Louisiana my whole
tainted
career.
lens being in Louisiana, in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. Because whenever we went to a trip we went to Seattle for a trip. We met with some Microsoft people. We met with some other people from Amazon and Boeing and whatnot.
Yeah.
And we would meet up in coffee shops in that environment. And it was like everybody in there had this business vibe. So I think it may just be through the lens of Baton Rouge, Louisiana, we have that feel.
And that's where, so I threw a question out as we went into break that we need to go back to here. And that was, if you're looking at the short-term rental space, if you're looking at the coffee shop and like you don't like the vibe of the coffee shop because of the like a hipster influencer blogger who's going to be sitting next to you, and you don't have the money for the short-term rental, the one I tossed out to you during break was, what about the public library? Our library on Goodwood has fantastic facilities.
It's and they completely renovated the whole thing.
Yeah.
I mean, it looks phenomenal.
Yes, it's absolutely wonderful. But there's this mentality that's built in that you're having a business meeting at the library. Is that and
see, I would flip the way you said the sentence. Oh, we're having a business meeting at the library. Yeah, when you say it in a negative, like, oh, we're meeting there. But if you spin and go, hey, I've got a space booked out at the Goodwood Library. Come meet me there. And you were like, you present it. If you're the person hosting the meeting, you present it. Hey, we're meeting at the library. They have great space. It's a great free resource. For me, I'm like, okay, now I'm intrigued. Whereas if somebody says, oh yeah, we do it at the library. Like that's where I meet people. You know, if it's you are subconsciously second guessing this meeting place,
yeah,
you have to sell it if it's going to be someplace like that.
See, and that's the thing though. If you've got to sell it, then you've got to hope that you're selling yourself.
Right.
And if you have to sell the meeting place before selling yourself, that just, to me, is creating an extra obstacle.
Yeah. I mean, not everybody can afford to have some office space.
I know,
it's a free option.
but at the same time, you don't want to be like, hey, come meet me at the bus station.
Well, yeah, but you're not. You mean at the library.
Exactly. Hey, we were talking a little bit about, we're talking about starting your business from home.
Right.
And getting launched and whatnot. A lot of that comes with, you are not 100% working for just your business. A lot of entrepreneurship starts as a side hustle. I had forwarded you an article, and I wanted to talk about this a little bit. Does your company have a side hustle policy? Should your company have a side hustle policy? Let's move the conversation from the entrepreneur or the side hustlepreneur to the business owner who's running the company that the future entrepreneur is working for. What do we see when we see side hustles out there? What do we see when it comes to corporate policy?
So when you look at a side hustle venture from the standpoint of an employer, from the get-go, when you hire employees, you need to have a moonlighting clause in your employment agreement. Meaning, for the accounting firm, because it's an easy example, I can't be doing books for people on the side,
right,
and not be billing them through the firm unless I've got ownership in the business, right? And so we have that policy of you can't moonlight in that way. But so long as there is a no conflict of interest, we don't offer those services type deal, then it's okay. However, don't let it disrupt your working hours when you're at the office. So as an employer, I think it's Microsoft that does this. They actually have a creative day once or twice a month where you can do whatever you want and you still get paid to work. You have a creative project, whether it's a side hustle, it's a different product you want to present to them. You can go and create and do whatever you want on that day. And it's like, we don't expect you to get a specific amount of work done.
Okay.
It's your personal day. So as an employer, maybe you're looking at that as an option, because if they do create something that's beneficial for your business that they weren't necessarily assigned to, now you can benefit. But if they're creating something on their own as a side hustle, now you know and can kind of monitor, all right, they're off doing something else, which means it kind of can bring them a little bit more joy and excitement. For example, accounting is not a very creative outlet, right?
Right.
Podcasting is.
Yeah.
So that, for me, have to have some form of creative outlet. The podcast and the show is one way to do that.
Right. So you couldn't work books for somebody, but you could be like a birthday clown.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or a wedding DJ.
Or a wedding, right. A wedding DJ, exactly. And so long as an employer, you need to communicate, we're okay with you doing that outside of working hours, you know. However, don't have something that's in direct competition with us, because at that point, you're moonlighting, you're going against what we do, and we might have to let you go or buy up whatever you're doing.
By and large, have you talked to a lot on your podcast? Have you talked about this topic much? And if so, what's been the takeaway?
I think some of the earlier guests, we had talked about doing this, you being one of them, and there were some other people. The biggest thing is whenever we have these conversations, it's hard to know when to take the dive.
Yeah.
When to take the shift and go completely away from what you're doing and be your own business. That's an answer that you have to answer for yourself.
Yeah.
Because
that's never going to be science. It's always going to be art. When to make that pivot is always going to be art.
Because if your business is not doubling what you're making at your regular job, you're going to be taking a step backwards.
Yeah.
And then you have to sacrifice your normal lifestyle to accommodate for your growing business. So it's tough to make the full leap. That's why side hustle is so attractive.
Give me the guest one more time for this week's Patty G Show.
Colleen Wagasback.
Colleen Wagasback, and what's the name of her?
Colleen Wagasback, interior design, and Fig and Dove.
Fig and Dove.
Fig and Dove.
You get the Patty G Show anywhere you get your podcast. You can also get it right here on Talk 107.3 FM and our Saturdays on demand lineup. He's Patrick Grimion, joins us every week. Always appreciate it, man.
Thank you, Brian.
Absolutely. We got to take a break right here. We're going to check the CBS World News Roundup. Then next hour, get ready for it. We're answering your I-10 questions with Shawn Wilson at 7:15. Here comes the CBS News. No, when I was asking if you've talked about this on your podcast, I meant the side hustle policy. Have you talked about the side hustle policy on your podcast? So,
we have actually.
Like, if you're the company that has the policy, because I don't want to work for a place that does not allow that, because you know it's going to be a toxic environment eventually, because at that point, the company becomes more important than the team.
Right.
The team member's viability is number one. So also, if you're the employer and you have somebody who wants to get ahead financially in their own life by picking up a side hustle and doing DoorDash or Uber or DJing weddings or producing LSU football, whatever, like whatever their side hustle is, if they pick up a shift at Domino's, like whatever that is, you know they've got drive and they've got hunger. It's a good personality trait for an employee.
I think it might have been Flynn. I think Flynn and I might have talked about it. Because that was his on like a very similar take on what he had was if somebody's out there doing a sidepreneur hustle, I know they've got grit and they've got drive and they're going to bust their butt while they're in the office so they don't have to take it with them when they leave.
Troy says on YouTube that Colleen is Steven's wife.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe include that. Steven's on the show every Monday. Lord.
Yeah. I figured you'd pick it up. Colleen Wagasback, Steven Wagasback.
There's plenty of Wagasbacks out there.
I know, Meredith Wagasback.
There's more Wagasbacks than I thought there'd be.
My cousin's a Wagasback.
You know, yesterday the feds arrested a Villarreal, and I'm like, you know.
That was weird.
Related?
No. Why?
No, you're related to all Mexicans.
Because you know how people say,
And you'll have
Ask me,
meetings.
Oh, Grimion, do you know so-and-so? I'm like, no.
hey, do you know Austin Grimion?
No.
Do you know Gant Grimion?
No.
See? This is why, yeah, it's just, why would I think to ask that?
So, if you wanna pull a little funny thing with Steven, next time he's in or next time y'all talking, I don't know how close y'all are. Be like, so, I saw Colleen was on the Patty G show. Like, she doing like podcasts now, but she won't go on
Okay. Okay. We'll do. I did his podcast a couple weeks ago.
It's fun.
There's
only like 15, 30 minutes,
It's
isn't it?
yeah, and it's a very open-ended format.
Yeah.
And I really, I would have liked to have been better prepared going in because I was kind of all over the map.
It happens.
Told my Katrina story. Yeah. I didn't tell the same. Well, it's been like 8 years since I was on your podcast. No, it's how I got.
That was sober, you know.
That's yeah, I know. Basically, I'm pretty sure I told it on your podcast was I'm not where I'm at in radio today if it's not for Hurricane Katrina. I'd been working in radio for 10 months. I started in radio in October of 2004. Katrina makes landfall August 29th, 2005.
Yeah.
And basically, it was all hands on deck in Baton Rouge because New Orleans was wiped out. And, I mean, if you had any drive, any hustle, any want to help or grow your career, there was nothing but opportunity in front of you. And I was working alongside dudes that I grew up listening to.
Yeah.
Spud McConnell, Tommy Tucker, like a bunch of these like New Orleans dudes that have been around forever. Interestingly enough, Vince Marinello, who went on to kill his wife. Oh yeah. No, that was a big story. Go look up Vince Marinello. Like, he got busted. He did everything almost perfectly. He had a checklist of what to do to commit and get away with a murder. The last thing on the checklist he missed, which was throw away the checklist. They found the checklist.
No. That's just. I mean, that's like what you do after you've done the deed. You sit around a fireplace reminiscing on what you've done. You throw the checklist in the fire pit.
Yes.
Like, that's just.
I mean,
obviously, true crime documentaries weren't out at the time for them to know that.
you know, there needs to be one. Why is there not? Is there a Vince Marinello documentary? Let's see. You might be onto something here. Yep. How's today's weather looking? Here's a look at your forecast. WBRZ meteorologist Marissa Nuzzo. Okay.
Pitch it. Pitch it to Netflix.
Yeah. It looks like we had Dying to Belong. Sins and Secrets. But these are like one episode of another. There might be some room to run here. I know who to talk to.
If not, just make it into like a podcast series.
Uh-huh.
See y'all.
Later. .706. Talk 107.3 FM, WBRP, Hour 2 of Mornings with Brian Haldane coming your way right now. Brian here with you. Alondra producing. Busy hour this hour. First of all, thanks again to Patrick Grimion, host of the Patty G Show, for talking a little business. Man, as we were continuing into the break, we had somebody comment on YouTube. Troy commented on YouTube that we were talking about Colleen Wangersbach is Patty G's guest here. Troy says Colleen is Stephen's wife, Stephen Wangersbach, who joins us every Monday from LABI. Wish I'd have known that going in. That would have been fun to talk about. Anyway, we got a busy hour for you this hour as well. Dr. Shawn Wilson is the Secretary of the Department of Transportation and Development. There's a lot of questions surrounding the upcoming construction on I-10. We're going to answer or ask and answer as many as possible. I've already got a stack of them. I've got 3 pages worth here. I know I'm not going to get to all of them in one segment. Not to worry, though. We have plenty of time before construction actually gets underway. This ain't going to be the last time that Dr. Wilson comes on. Also this hour, Crimestoppers. Lieutenant Don Coppola is going to be by to catch some bad guys later on this hour. Going to get you the top stories and trending in just a minute, but I do have to remind you about the folks. We got to remind you about Miss Stephanie over at Zeeland Street. We were talking during the break about, whether or not you have a business meeting over coffee. I say why not have a business meeting over lunch or breakfast for that matter and swing by Zeeland Street to get it done. I mean, you want to talk about the perfect atmosphere to have a business meeting. When you look around, the folks that are there at Zeeland Street to eat, it's a good time. It's a welcoming vibe. It's great food. It's brought out to you in a timely manner. Pricing is fantastic. And the overall atmosphere there is, when you look around the room, these folks are getting stuff done. Miss Stephanie's been doing it right for more than 30 years now. And y'all know I love the food. I tout the food every single day. And I love talking about this too. Your time is valuable to you. And Miss Stephanie appreciates that as well. Go by and see her for lunch today. Oh, no, yesterday was Fried Chicken Wednesday. Missed out already. They're on the corner of Perkins and Zeeland. That's on the Garden District side of the Perkins Road overpass, right next door to Varsity Sports. It's Zeeland Street. Time for top stories and trending. Let's go. Excuse me. No real surprise here, and we led the show with it this morning. Louisiana's Attorney General Jeff Landry formally announced his gubernatorial campaign. Campaign sent out a press release actually on Tuesday morning. Says today, Attorney General Jeff Landry officially launched his campaign for governor of Louisiana. A couple of the highlights from that video announcement. From Jeff Landry, we deserve a government as good as our people, and we're not getting it. During my life, I've walked in the very shoes of people who struggle more than they should in a state blessed as this one. We must join together to build the Louisiana we want, our neighbors need, and our children deserve. It's tentative right now, but Jeff Landry's on the schedule tomorrow, so we'll talk to him then about the candidacy. East Baton Rouge Parish Assistant District Attorney Dana Cummings detailed how a beloved Zachary firefighter and reserve police officer was run over and killed back in March of 2018 while a jury listened. So did more than 36 police officers and firefighters who helped fill a Baton Rouge courtroom. This coming to us from the Advocate. The trial is underway for a man accused of running over and killing a Zachary firefighter and reserve officer. That trial got underway yesterday. The accident itself happened back in 2018. The fatal encounter happened on March 12th of 2018 as Christopher Lawton became the first officer killed in the line of duty up in Zachary. Lawton and an undercover detective closed in on, my apologies, y'all. My computer's jumping all over on me. Albert Jermaine Franklin is the one who's on trial. The trial is underway right now, and we'll follow it as it moves forward. A shooting threat to McKinley High School made Tuesday afternoon prompted an increased police presence on the school's campus Wednesday. The threat was posted online around 1:30 p.m. Tuesday. The school and law enforcement were made aware of the threat, and while the school was not closed, the Baton Rouge Police Department said it was working with the school system to investigate. BRPD said it's working on the incident. There was more security on campus out of, quote, an abundance of caution. Looking to go a full week without McKinley High School being in the news. Oh, this story's bonkers. A man accused of beating his twin brother was booked for murder after his sibling died in the hospital. 56-year-old Timothy Pitts is facing a charge of second-degree murder for killing his brother Daniel Pitts, according to the Baton Rouge Police Department. Police said the encounter happened on September 16th at a home on Wallace Street where both men lived. Arrest documents said Timothy called someone from his brother's phone and told them Daniel was, quote, not doing good and that his eyes would not open. Daniel was hospitalized in Baton Rouge until he died on September 29th. An autopsy revealed he died from multiple strikes to the head and neck area. Police did not immediately share any other details about the attack, but now his brother is accused of second-degree murder for beating him to death. An investigation into an overdose death led narcotics detectives to a small church in Baton Rouge where one man was arrested Tuesday, grabbing this one from WBRZ. The narcotics division with the East Baton Rouge Parish Sheriff's Office, along with the Central Police Department, was working an overdose death. A statement from a friend of the victim told officials the victim had purchased heroin and fentanyl from 27-year-old Hakeem Allen. Agents conducted a month-long investigation, leading them to obtain search warrants for 3 locations, including the Salvation Ministry of Jesus Christ, a small church that operated out of a home on Page Street. All 3 warrants were conducted on Tuesday. While investigators were conducting the search warrant at the ministry, Allen reportedly threw a Glock handgun with an extended magazine. 1.75 ounces of fentanyl and a quarter of a pound of marijuana at the deputies while attempting to flee. He was soon brought into custody. Among other drugs seized from the 3 search warrants, deputies found a half pound of fentanyl, 20 grams of methamphetamine, 29 grams of cocaine, 100 doses of Suboxone, and 42 doses of hydrocodone. Allen was booked on several drug-related charges. His bond for all of that was set at $43,000. Those are your top stories. Here's a look at what's trending this morning. Everybody exhale. Alec Baldwin can go back to making his movie. The family of a cinematographer shot and killed by Alec Baldwin on the set of the film Rust has agreed to settle a lawsuit against the actor and the movie's producers, and producers aim to restart the project in January despite unresolved workplace safety sanctions. Quote, we have reached a settlement subject to court approval for our wrongful death case against the producers of Rust, including Alec Baldwin. That statement was put out by Matthew Hutchins, widow of the cinematographer Helena Hutchins, and a plaintiff in the lawsuit, along with their 9-year-old son, Andros. Quote, as part of that settlement, our case will be dismissed. The filming of Rust, which I will now executive produce, will resume with all the original principal players on board starting January of next year. We're going to hold that story off till the end of the show because we got too much business to get to here. Dr. Shawn Wilson's next, but man, there's so much left to be unpacked from that. Let's take a quick break. Let's talk I-10 right after this. Yeah. Where'd he go? Was that Shawn? Dawn. Don. Okay. Yeah, and like everything in there kind of reverted back to the old. Well, that might have to do with everything we did yesterday. So, yeah. $716 Talk 107.3 FM WBRP. Mornings with Brian Haldane rolling right along. Time for us to talk about I-10. Time for us to welcome in DOTD Secretary Dr. Shawn Wilson. Dr. Wilson, good morning. Welcome back, man. How are you?
I'm well. Good morning to you and your listeners.
Glad to have you on here this morning. Glad to be talking about this. I appreciate you stepping in to answer some questions because it seems the more information gets put out, the more questions keep popping up. So we're more than happy to use these airways as a venue to clean up any kind of confusion.
Absolutely.
I got to start with this one. What kind of lane closures are we looking at and for how long? Because there seems to be some serious disparity between what I've heard before versus what there's a group that's out there that really wants a different plan, a different mode of action here. Are we looking at what? Tell me what we're looking at from a lane closure standpoint.
Certainly. So, great question. We basically have a lane reduction. So, where you have 3 lanes, you will have 2 lanes. Where you have 2 lanes, you will have 1 lane. And it's not for the entire stretch of the interstate system from the bridge to the 10-12 split. That's the length of the core construction project. The lane reduction will occur for 2 lanes, from 3 lanes to 2 lanes, basically from at the end of the 110 all the way through the rest of the project, eastbound. Where the 2 lanes will go to 1 lane is from the bridge to I-10 on the flyover. So it's a little less than, I think, a fourth of a mile that you're going to have that 2 lanes to 1 lane reduction, and everything else will be 2 lanes for the rest of the construction zone. Then, believe it or not, that 2-lane, 1-lane configuration is only going to last for 1 year and 2 months. So we're looking at a 14-month window, and then you're back to the same level of capacity that you have today, 3 lanes in each direction. And so there's this art called confusion, and just to clarify it, that is the reality of what the current plans are today for the project. It's not 2 lanes or 1 lane for the entire stretch that you may have heard. It's a very short section that is going to be 1 lane, and then it's going to be 2 lanes for the remaining portion, only for 14 months, and then you're back to 3 lanes in each direction.
Okay, so the 2 lanes, the 3 lanes down to 2, the 2 lanes down to 1 is on eastbound. What are we looking at on westbound?
On westbound, you're going to have 1 lane on the same stretch on the flyover, and you're going to have 2 lanes on the rest of the corridor in each direction. So that is the same for each direction. If I'm going to 110, there's going to be 1 lane. You're going to keep 1 lane. If I'm going to I-10 eastbound, there's 1 lane today, and you're going to have that 1 lane tomorrow. Then on the stretch, as soon as I pass the 110, almost at Washington Street, for the rest of the project, you're going to have 2 lanes in each direction. Only in that larger stretch that you're going to have the 3 lanes that's going to go to 2 lanes.
We're talking with Dr. Shawn Wilson. He's the Secretary of the Department of Transportation, trying to get a couple questions answered as there's been more and more questions coming up about the upcoming I-10 construction. Actually, Dr. Wilson, let me throw this one out there. When does all this actually get started?
So, contrary to popular belief, the project has already started. You see construction at Acadian, you see construction at College, you see construction under Perkins Road. We're actually doing the early stages of construction. Beginning next year, you will start to see the crossovers built, additional temporary construction, which is not uncommon for construction projects built. And the main restriction that we're talking about, that 14-month window, will begin in this quarter of 2024, and it will last for 1 football season, 1 hurricane season, and then you're back to normal. And remember, the value of this is saving us several years of construction in this entire corridor and giving us a better built project for the community for the next 75 to 100 years, and saving money for the scope of work that has to be done to the tune of about $50 million.
You brought up hurricane season. We'll skip to that one right now. What is the fail-safe for a hurricane evacuation while construction's going on?
While construction is going on, we actually plan for hurricane season already on an annual basis when we have one. And we demobilize projects where possible to maximize throughput. We begin evacuation as early as necessary. And we provide information for alternate routes that we can also control, no different than what we control for the interstate system. And so if folks say you can only contraflow on I-10, that may be an accurate statement in the concept of contraflow as we know it. But you've got multiple lanes on other roads that we would encourage people to take. And remember, the idea is for folks to go north. And so out of the New Orleans area, we can advertise and promote taking 55, 51 to avoid I-10. We can take 90 to go to Lafayette. There are all kinds of things that we can do in hurricane evacuation. And remember, in evacuation, things are going to go slower. It will take longer. And that is a hallmark of every evacuation, because our system isn't built to move 350 to 400,000 people a day. That's going to be the same case in construction. It's actually more narrow. We lived through this on US 11 for multiple hurricane seasons, and it was extremely painful for those folks. We're limiting the exposure and the opportunity there. And then the last thing I'll tell you, Brian, is hurricane season, God bless us, if you only have 0. But what if you only have 1? You're talking about a 3-day window of congestion, a 3-day opportunity for that evacuation. And in reality, we have congestion and challenges on the interstate system on a regular basis. But after this project is over, that will change. And so we aren't in hurricane season all year long, and evacuations don't last all hurricane season. And so it's a very narrow window that we have to deal with.
It is, but you know what they say about a hurricane season. All it takes is 1 to make it a bad hurricane season.
Oh, it takes 1 to make it a bad hurricane season. But let's talk about it from an evacuation standpoint and a repopulation standpoint. That is an extremely narrow window. You're not going to evacuate a week before a hurricane. you're going to evacuate 2 to 3 days, maybe a day before that hurricane. And so if we tell you to get a game plan, if we ask you to leave early because of these conditions, that we're giving you advice because of what we see and what we've learned and what we know will work, and you take it. So you're talking about 1 day, maybe 2 days out of a whole year and 2 months, out of a whole 4.5-year construction window. I think that is a reasonable request because we cannot avoid hurricane season.
No, we can't. I mean, I know we're supposed to be moving from a La Nina to an El Nino, which is supposed to make it lighter, but yeah, this is not something you can't roll
the
it up.
question is, should that 1 day dictate the next 8 years of our lives? I don't think that's a good equation. I think we should look at it on the face of the value of what it is to say, what are the risks associated with us having one bad day, and as a result of that, putting the families and the businesses and the citizens in a construction zone for 8 years? Think about that. I'd rather take that 1 day, rip the Band-Aid off, and I'm much better off for the next 7 years. That's much better value in terms of time, in terms of environment, in terms of congestion, in terms of business.
Yes, and the pushing the alternate routes thing is going to be important. If we do get caught with a hurricane coming our way, pushing the alternate routes is going to be important because it would be important anyway. I got to ask this question with zero knowledge going in, though. When it comes to alternate routes in the event of a hurricane, is 90 also going to be simultaneously under construction?
There'll be segments of construction all over the state of Louisiana, but remember, we're not going to have very many construction zones that will have this level of restriction.
Okay.
And so we will have the ability to demobilize projects as a part of our contracts. For every contract that we tell folks, get their equipment out the way, use the shoulders, use whatever we need to do to move people efficiently. And so we had a restriction, and folks didn't realize it. We had a 1-lane restriction on the bridge in 190. Folks, during the hurricane evacuation last year.
Yep.
And it worked, and it wasn't extremely painful. Now, are the numbers the same as on 90 and I-10? Absolutely not. But for folks in Morgan City, that was a real issue. And so when you have situations that you have to demobilize, you do it. But in situations where you can't demobilize, you can't. And in the case of I-10, I won't be able to put up an additional lane because of the nature of construction.
We're talking with Dr. Shawn Wilson, the DOTD secretary, about the upcoming I-10 construction. One question I've been peppered with a lot, Dr. Wilson, is if we're getting a new bridge, why are we redoing I-10 now? Why wouldn't we wait till a new bridge is in effect, where you'd have that lessening of traffic at that choke point near 110 anyway?
Another great question. We've just demonstrated that 85% of the traffic on the bridge is local traffic, meaning within the Baton Rouge metropolitan area, encompassing West Baton Rouge, Livingston, Ascension, and East Baton Rouge. And you got to factor in the growth. The department has always said we need both of these alternatives. One value is this is going to happen in the next 4 years. The Mississippi River Bridge will not be completed in the next 4 years. And so if we wait until we build the bridge, you're talking about 10 years, 8 years before you will have access to drive on that bridge. And then look at the growth and the congestion that you're going to be living with on the regular basis for the next 6 to 8 years, 10 years. So we manage multiple projects all across the state simultaneously, and we've always said this needs to be a both-and solution, not an either-or solution.
We'll talk with Dr. Shawn Wilson for just a couple more minutes, and I assure you this is not the last of these conversations. As the more questions get answered, the more questions come up until this thing. I know, man. Hey, look, let's keep peeling that onion. Let's keep on going, and I appreciate your time this morning. Another one I'm asked regularly is what has been done to help improve, widen, shore up alternative routes before we get started on this, like, for example, Airline Highway leading up to the Old Bridge or beyond?
Big question. We have always talked about everything, first and foremost, publicizing and providing accurate information as far east as Hammond, as far west as Lafayette, to take alternative routes. But specifically with regards to airline, everything from adaptive signals to limited closures of crossovers to adding of left turn lanes. We've got an entire year, and we have been working on this for some time to be able to manage what's going to happen in that corridor, as well as Florida, as well as Nicholson. You name it, we've looked at these other projects. River Road, we've looked at where the traffic will go based on a mesoscopic traffic model, and what we have learned, and these are experts. These are people who study and manage traffic for a living, not just here, but in countries and states abroad. And so we're looking at all of those things. We're making the steps and taking the steps to modify them and make those improvements. And we're also communicating with industry and we're communicating with other state governments to say, let's consider rerouting. Let's consider a changed workday. DOTD is leading the way in helping the state move to a 4-day work week. It may eventually be a 3-day work week during construction to minimize the people that are coming into Baton Rouge on a regular basis. And so it is an all above the board effort. Then you also have additional motor assist patrol, which is going to allow us to move traffic more efficiently, help with blowouts or people running out of gas or even minor accidents in a slow condition. That's going to make a difference in terms of moving traffic there. And then I think our people are resilient. They're going to find the path of least resistance. And that least resistance might be working from home. It might be taking an alternative route. It might be taking transit. It might be park and ride. It might be HOV. If we're successful on the passenger rail, it'll be passenger rail. This is the approach of how you deal with these mega projects. It's an all of the above solution.
I think you have a bit more optimism than I when it comes to getting people to change their routes. We are creatures of habit. When it comes to the number of people that are going to take a different way to work, I'm taking the under.
Look, I understand that, and my job is to make these options available and make them easily accessible in hopes that you make that decision. But if not, again, you're going to find the path of least resistance, which is you're going to take a different route in your car by yourself, as opposed to riding with 2 other coworkers to end up at the same destination. I get it.
Yeah.
But we still have to, we owe it to our citizens to give them the option. And until you experience that option and learn and appreciate that option, you're not going to take advantage of it. HOV on I-12, it's a project that we're rolling out. It's been a challenge to get out because of some of the federal bureaucracy we have to deal with. But the reality is, if it makes it easier and 10%, 5% of the people take it, that's a huge advantage because it's typically the tipping point, and the tipping point is that amount that flows over your capacity. So if I can take 3 or 4% of the people that are coming into Baton Rouge every day and reduce it, if I can take 2 or 3% of the people that are driving and put them in cars together, that will reduce it. It will make it more acceptable and much more of a condition that we're accustomed to.
And that's what we're going to do now. Like we said, just many conversations about this. DOTD Secretary Dr. Shawn Wilson, thank you so much for the time.
Thank you, Brian, and thank you for your listeners.
Absolutely. Here's CBS News. At least 2 hours to have that whole conversation. And now I'm going to get lost in where I was by the next time we pick it up. Son of a biscuit. How are you? It's always a yes. I wouldn't. Yeah. I got a couple things stacked up today. Let's talk about the banquet first. Are tables still available and whatnot? Think so? Okay. I was told yesterday that I need to fill up our table. So. Let's see. I don't. No. Sure. Where's it at? That would be awesome if I could get out of here altogether for the day by then, because then I wouldn't have to backtrack. State Police Headquarters off of Independence? Yeah. Do I have to dress up? Okay. Yeah, I'll probably be skipping lunch, but I can be there for sure. John Stefanski. We got to get him on. He's going to run for Jeff Landry's seat. Yeah, I need to not forget. I'm sorry. I got everything right now at once between the station revamp and my upcoming retreat, which we're only 3 weeks away from now. My retreat? No, your banquet's November 4th. My retreat is October 27th through 30th. And, oh, by the way, that Thursday, I'll let you know who's in for me that day. We'll see if we can't still do the segment. October 27th. Okay. Okay. Yeah. I forwarded her your contact information.
She
Yeah.
reached out to me yesterday.
Yeah.
Somebody, if let's talk about the banquet.
Okay.
Okay, tables, and I don't have the price of the tables, but they can go to our website.
I have
And
the price
then-
of the tables.
Okay, well, you can say that. That's kind of out of my wheelhouse.
It's all good.
It's more Johnny, but we can talk about it. I would like to discuss.
Speaking of Johnny, he was on the head table yesterday for the Rotary Club, introducing.
And who was it at the head table in the Rotary Club?
Who?
Don. Don wasn't interested. Don wasn't there. Don.
Were you
Johnny
at the meeting at all? I didn't even see you there.
No, Johnny just threw me to the curb yesterday.
I mean,
Can you believe?
hang on one second. Let's see. Eric says Livingston Parish, the alternate highway east and west are 2 lanes for the majority of the span in the parish. Great alternate route. That is a great alternate route. Storm says, I don't care how he sells it. This will be a nightmare of gigantic proportions. Hey, you know, one of the things that worries me about this is a changing of the guard next year before we get into the lane closures in 24. I'm waiting for the gubernatorial candidate that says, elect me, and I'm going to boot Shawn Wilson and put somebody in who's going to do it differently and promise us everything under the sun. Galen says, if Dr. Wilson could change behavior, we would not need to widen I-10 at all. So you and I were on the same page on that one. Troy says, if you're going to criticize a plan, be prepared to throw a better one on the table. We're going to talk to Coleman Brown in the very near future. I've talked to a number of civil engineers already, and I've given them everything Coleman Brown has given me, and they have told me in no uncertain terms, the plans are crazy and completely unviable. Stop spending so much money on commissions and studies is one plan. Wayne, I appreciate you for asking the question. Thank you. Is Rocco going to be on your retreat? That wouldn't be very... Rocco, Rocco is on my retreat, and it's going to be amazing. All right, sorry about that. Wanted to wrap up that previous segment before moving on. What? Like legit? Calm down. We'll get it covered. Just keep looking. Step away from it for a minute. Come back to it later. Nope, not that one.
Someone tell him you're good for today.
Cool.
So we'll talk about.
Are we looking at a warming trend? Did we get a second fake fall? Here's your forecast from WBRZ meteorologist Marissa Nuzzo.
The banquet. We'll talk about Crimestoppers, maybe the process. Let people know it's been around for 40 years. It's worldwide.
Can we talk about what Dr. Brumley talked about? The GNO Crimestoppers has got they're doing, is that, it's too much, yeah. No, I know.
This is the issue. Can you hear the mic?
Yeah.
too much confuses people.
Yes, it's time for Crime Stoppers. Yes, it's time to welcome in Lieutenant Don Capola. Don, what's happening, man?
Well, thank you, Brian, and it's good to be back. I know the last couple of weeks we've had some guests, very informative information, the railroad, eye care, great information, but I was feeling left out, not being in this seat. So
I mean,
thank you for having me back.
You could have been for all the good we did with the railroad. Like as great as that information was and as important as that information was, to have him on and then in the next week have 2 accidents and I believe another one outside of town and just to have him on 2 weeks later, just kind of crazy.
And hopefully the listeners have passed the information on and you'll stop. You'll get off the tracks.
Right. Just don't beat the train before the train beats you.
The train.
I mean, it seems simple in principle. Hey, before we get into, there's a couple of different things we need to talk about. One of them is process, because I keep promising this and we keep putting it off because there's always bad guys to catch. But before we get into that, coming up on Friday, November 4th, is a great chance to show your support and love for Crime Stoppers by attending the annual, it's the Law Enforcement Appreciation Awards Luncheon.
Yes.
But this is Crime Stoppers' gig.
Right, and this is one of our biggest fundraisers, and we had to suspend it for a little while because of COVID, but we're back again November 4th. Registration at 11 a.m. It begins at 11:30 at the Renaissance on Bluebonnet.
Yeah.
Any information you can go to 1073 or crimestoppers225.com. Crimestoppers225.com. They have all the information as far as if you want to purchase a table, if you just want to donate, anything is welcome.
So I've been to this before. It's a can't miss from my end because it's first of all, it's a great event. Secondly, every set of hands clapping to show law enforcement appreciation is valued because they're very undervalued, very underappreciated on a regular basis. Just taking a minute, just taking a lunch to say thank you is a world of difference.
And it is. And it's Matt Williams usually MCs it. I believe our guest speaker is Congressman Garrett Graves.
Oh!
So it's a great event. And like you said, it's these men and women in law enforcement that are doing great things with Crime Stoppers, solving these crimes, identifying these suspects. It's the least we could do just to say thank you, to honor them, and of course the ones that aren't receiving any awards, just to sit down, recognize them, have a lunch, and just say thank you.
And there's law enforcement officers at every table, and that's another part of this that I think is undervalued. It's a great chance for some one-on-one just discussion, whether that be just small talk or talking shop.
Right.
Either way, it's phenomenal.
What we do is we try to sit at least one, maybe 2 or 3 law enforcement officers with people they may not even know. But like you mentioned, it gets the conversation engaged, and they walk out of there with a phone number, with a card, and hopefully a long friendship will follow.
So if you go to crimestoppers225.com, if you wanted to purchase a table, the table seats 10, so you're bringing 8 people and you're hosting 2 law enforcement officers.
Yes.
And the price ranges, individual tickets are $100, and it goes up from there. I want to say a table starts at like $1,500 and then moves up for all the way up to where you're getting 2 tables. But you can get all the information at crimestoppers225.com.
All for a good cause.
No, absolutely. It is an unbelievably vital cause, and we're going to talk about what goes into that cause in just a minute. I tell you, the last time, did I miss one, or was Brandon Freeman the last keynote?
The last one I remember, it was Brandon.
Yeah.
He did a great job.
That was a ridiculously good presentation.
It was really nice. I want to say that was Sid Newman's last event as the executive director.
Yep.
Before he stepped down, Johnny Dunham, former chief, is doing a great job, and we're excited for what's going to come next.
Speaking of Johnny Dunham, saw him yesterday. He was at the head table at the Rotary Club introducing the guest. She heads up the Department for Human Trafficking, stopping human trafficking right now. And human trafficking has been something that has grown in real life danger, real life number of cases, and Baton Rouge seems to be a hub. From a Crimestopper standpoint, are y'all seeing more tips coming in, more information coming in when it comes to human trafficking?
And we do receive tips on that, and a lot of the tips may not be in our A Parish area, but the tips we do receive, because some people just say, "Oh, Crimestoppers," and they send it, which is fine, but we get those distributed out because of the fact it is so serious, and you can't take anything like that lightly.
Let's talk about Crimestoppers. Let's talk about process a little bit, because we always promise we're going to do this and take a little bit of a deeper dive into how y'all work. You've been around for 40 years. Stellar reputation for 40 years for protecting anonymity.
Yes. So for people that don't know, Crimestoppers programs are around the world. Greater Baton Rouge, which is now Capital Region, we cover 8 parishes. It's been around for 40 years. We protect the anonymity of our tipsters. There are actually a Louisiana revised statute 15:477.1 titled Privileged Communications to Crimestoppers organizations, meaning no one will be required to disclose their identity by the way of testimony or otherwise. So not only are we telling you you're protected, there's a Louisiana revised statute that protects our tipsters. So no one will ever be called to court. No one will ever be contacted because we don't know who you are.
Right.
We don't want to know who you are. We just want the information you have. So with that being said, 344-STOP, 344-7867, the P3 app, the website, Crimestoppers 225, whatever information you have, we invite you to our Facebook page. We have a countless amount of unsolved murders. Nessa Hartley, Ackland Jackson Jr. from Ascension, Thomas James from Irvinville, Lewis Robinson Jr., Shelby Holmes, Jonathan Georgetown from West Baton Rouge, Kevin Johnson, and of course, Ali Rice. And the list goes on and on.
Mm-hmm.
The Crimestoppers podcast has been put on hold for right now, but we're getting that back up.
Mm-hmm.
But it's still on Podcast 225.
Yeah.
Go check it out. Go listen. Go re-listen to these stories.
One of the things I love about the Crimestoppers podcast is I believe y'all got 5 episodes in, and one of those 5 was already solved.
One of those has been solved.
Right.
It's a East Baton Rouge Sheriff's Office case that has been solved. And as of now for 2022, Crimestoppers has assisted in solving 86 felony crimes. 123 arrests have been made and have paid out so far this year in excess of $40,000 to tipsters for the information.
All right, let me ask you the question. I already know the answer to it, but it's nice to have a refresher every once in a while. Hey, Don, how can you pay me if you don't know who I am?
And that's a good question. So when you contact Crimestoppers, you are given a code number. It is on you to keep that code number, because if you lose it, that's the only way we know what information you provided. So your information leads to the identity. Your information leads to an arrest. Then it's on the tipster to contact Crimestoppers, because, again, we have no clue who you are. Did my information lead to an arrest? Yes, it did. So we have the callers call back 2 days before payday. When they call back, we give them information for payday, which will include their code number they were given initially when they called their tip in, and a code word for payday. They drive to a local bank in the Baton Rouge area. They go through the drive-through. We recommend the line furthest away from the teller window. They submit a piece of paper to a teller, and this is the only time we suggest submitting a piece of paper to the teller, okay, with their code number, Crimestoppers, and that password. The teller sends back an envelope with cash with their code number on the front, and they drive off and enjoy the rest of their day.
Hey,
It's
if everything's
very
anonymous,
simple.
do I even have to claim that on my taxes?
No.
There you
because
go.
It's cash.
Yeah.
It's cash money.
It's
But again, that's the only time we recommend passing a note
no.
to the teller. So
Does the process work the same for the P3 app?
Same thing.
Yeah.
100% the same. We can communicate with our tipsters through a dialogue on the app. Again, we have no information on your identity. We're just asking questions, follow-up questions that investigators may have. Any additional information you may have on a specific case, you can pass that along through the app. So the only time we communicate could be once a month if you're set for payday, if you so choose.
In 40 years worth of solid reputation of keeping that anonymity, and I know I pound on that probably too much, but to me that's the most important thing. When it comes to the number one reason why people don't step forward is a level of fear of being identified, and Crimestoppers has been beyond solid. They've been airtight with it.
Without a doubt, and you see that every day as far as I'm scared, I don't want to face retaliation. Well, you're not.
Right.
Because we don't know who you are.
No, absolutely. 344-STOP is the phone number. Crimestoppers225 is the website. He is Lieutenant Don Coppola. We do this every single week. Hey, Don, can I get you to hang out during the break? I got a question I want to ask you during the break.
Yeah, sure.
About Allie Rice. And
sure,
then
absolutely.
when tips come in. So if you're not watching us on YouTube, head on over to YouTube. I'm going to have a little bit of conversation about digging through the absolute volume of calls and tips. So that'll continue. On air, we get your money now and a quick look at traffic. Coming back with the outside in next, right here on Talk 107.3 FM. So with Allie Rice, there were, I'm assuming, a flood of calls, because I know there were a flood of calls to BRPD as well.
Yeah, the tips that came in were just a countless number.
How does that process work, getting them to BRPD? Do y'all do any triaging or screening of knowing, okay, this is obviously garbage, let's throw it out, this sounds like a prank, that sort of thing, or does everything get
and everything gets pushed? Now we vet the tips, because some tips that are given to us may have identifying information for the tipster. Whether it be pointing to a relative, maybe it's pointing to, my neighbor who's here. Well, we edit that information because of the fact, if anything is identifying to the tipster, we make sure we vet that prior to sending to investigators. But every tip is sent. Even and the reason
that makes it sound like there's an added layer of protection of anonymity.
100%.
Okay, that's
100%.
Even if the tipster inadvertently identifies or narrows down the field of who they are.
Right, and with the tips we pass on, Brian, we just refer to tipsters as tipsters or callers.
Right.
It's not he said or she said. It's just the tipster, the caller.
Okay.
Caller stated, caller advised. That's it. So everything is passed on because we don't know what investigators have or don't have at the time.
Right.
So if it's something that comes in that seems, well, this isn't a whole lot of information, it still gets passed on, not only in the Allie Rice investigation or any other homicide, but any crime, anything we're trying to identify someone with, because of the fact that may be that tidbit of information that they're waiting for.
Yeah.
No matter how big or small. And if it's not what they need, well, you know what? They have it just in case down the road something comes up, they can go back and refer to. And then once identification is made or an arrest is made, we'll communicate with those investigators to say which tip of these assisted.
Now, from an investigatory standpoint, when you have an overwhelming number of tips, when you have an overwhelming number of calls, does that slow an investigation down? It just feels like from a manpower, from a man-hours standpoint, like having that much would take time.
Well, and investigators go through all the tips.
Mm-hmm.
Even if people call investigators directly, they take that information and they look into that information. And I've heard allegations of investigators not calling witnesses. That was so far from the truth. And even in the press conference, Lieutenant Kevin Hines, or now Captain Kevin Hines, had made that clear.
Yeah.
So we want those calls to keep coming in. We want to be flooded. We want to flood investigators with emails from Crimestoppers because the community is talking. We want them to continue to know that we can't do this without them. We want them to know that the information that they're providing is being gone through with a fine-tooth comb, and that information may be the information needing to help and solve these crimes.
So let's do the side-by-side comparison here, because this goes back to the anonymity thing again. If I call Crimestoppers with a tip about the Ali Rice murder, and I say I was a 4 cars behind her or something like that, if I call Crimestoppers, there's no opportunity for BRPD to call me back with follow-up questions.
No, 100% not. They're not going to call you because we don't know who you are.
Right.
Now, through the P3 app, again, there's a dialogue where we Crimestoppers can communicate with the tipster. So we send the tip to investigators, and they may say, okay, well, can you ask the tipster A, B, and C? Yeah. So we'll communicate that way. The tipster receives the information, and then we have that dialogue through the P3 app.
See, I have the P3 app, and I've never had to use it, so I don't even know about that feature.
And it's good that you haven't, but it's good that you also have it just in case.
Yeah. Wow. I appreciate a little further clarification.
No, absolutely, and I appreciate you.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thanks, sir.
11:30 till when? Or 11:10 till when?
It starts at 11:30. It'll probably go an hour, no longer than 1 o'clock.
Okay. I'm there.
It's about an hour. So there'll be, of course, representation of law enforcement through our 8 parish area. They'll talk about the upcoming conference.
Okay.
Just
Cool. I'm in.
all right, buddy. Thank you.
Thank you. 7:55 talk. Goodness gravy. 7:55 talk 107.3 FM WBRP. Thanks again to Lieutenant Don Capola for stopping by for Crimestoppers. Great information throughout the segment and during the break. We wanted to talk a little bit about the overwhelming volume of calls coming in about Ali Rice's murder, and just process on something like that. Because I know when you have something of that magnitude, that big of a headline, that tragic of a story, that level of randomness that leaves fear with all of us, getting to the bottom of it is very, very important. And it unfortunately, it doesn't get solved in an hour. And then the screen goes to black and it says executive producer Dick Wolf. This isn't TV. So I appreciate Don's time right there. All right, we got a lot more to get to right now. It's time for us to step outside of East Baton Rouge Parish. We call this segment The Outside In. Oh, we are going to start off in Livingston Parish, where a sheriff's deputy who killed a woman after slamming into her car is under a criminal investigation. That case involving the death of Christina Stav back on July 15th is scheduled to go before a grand jury next week. Now, our news partners over at WBRZ made an editorial decision not to identify the deputy, and we're going to follow their lead on that. However, the Livingston Parish Sheriff's Office, according to WBRZ, has not been transparent pertaining to discipline, administrative leave, or the deputy's status at the department since the crash. The agency has also offered scant information pertaining to the call that he was responding to when slamming into the car that Stav was driving. Keeping it, Livingston Parish. A man who's suspected of shooting someone to death during a fight was arrested Wednesday afternoon. Walker police say a fight between 27-year-old Maurice Felder and 23-year-old Landon Harper broke out around 4 p.m. near the corner of Travis and Jim Tilley Streets. Officers said the fight escalated and Harper allegedly shot Felder 3 times before leaving the area. Felder was taken to a hospital where he later died. Harper was booked for second-degree murder and is being held under a $250,000 bond. Police said they expect to make more arrests in the coming week. Moving over to Iberville Parish, a disgraced sheriff's deputy who reportedly coerced a woman into performing sex acts on a 1-year-old, has been convicted on a slew of child porn and animal abuse charges in a related case in West Baton Rouge Parish. Shaderick Jones still faces charges in Iberville Parish of malfeasance in office and as accessory to first-degree rape. Aisha Todd, the woman accused in the case, faces a first-degree rape, aggravated crime against nature, and child pornography charges. District Attorney Tony Clayton announced Wednesday that a West Baton Rouge jury convicted Jones on 24 counts of child pornography and 55 counts of sexually abusing animals. Closing out St. Landry Parish, a St. Landry Parish sheriff's deputy has been arrested and booked on criminal charges. He also was terminated from his job. 37-year-old Elliot Patrick Bertrand of Eunice was booked with felony theft, felony injuring public records, and felony malfeasance. That's a lot of felonies. The investigation into Bertrand who was a major in the office in charge of fleet operations and search and rescue, began back in September when a local business owner called and made a complaint about him. That accusation was that Bertrand had used his position as a driver for personal gain back in November of 2020. Bertrand was immediately put on administrative leave while that investigation was underway. That is the outside in. Get you to CBS News in just a minute. One more reminder, though. Westwood One's coverage of Thursday night, Sunday night, and Monday Night Football are right here on Talk 107.3 FM. Week 5 in the NFL kicks off tonight, right after Kevin Ford's Go Fishing Show. Here comes CBS. Yeah, I do. You're damn right. Hey, I don't know when Eagles game day starts on Saturday. Is it 6 or is it 7? It's got to be 6, huh? 5 hours before. Okay. Yo. Mm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's like it got a secret compartment underneath. You put your weed in it. You put your weed in it. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Mm. Mm. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Is your mic on? Why aren't you? It's just me saying, mm-hmm.
Okay. So
Like YouTube is like, what the hell? Brian's just agreeing. And all they heard me say was you could put your weed in it. That's the entirety of what they know right now.
Okay, well, YouTube, I bought a coffee table that has a lift top and like a drawer that you slide over too. And
Just one drawer or like a bunch of them, like an apothecary table?
No, it's just one drawer.
Okay, that should be Dr. Purdue. He said he was going to call early school.
No, it's just one drawer that you slide over, and then there's like you could put it's like some storage, and then the lift top you could use it as like a desk, a dinner table. It's functional, and then there's storage on the lift top too. So I was telling Brian that it came in the mail yesterday, and that I had to put it together, and he was asking me if I put the weed in the drawers.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do.
Also, so like I've got this vision in my mind of like Nicolas Cage in National Treasure 2.
Yeah.
You know, finding the secret drawer in the president's desk.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's pretty much what my coffee table is. And I was telling Brian I had to put it all together. It was so many pieces to that table. There were so many pieces to it. I had to put like the springs. I had to put like the little things so that you could slide the drawer. It was my God, it was a project. It took me 2.5 hours to put that table together. 2.5 hours. And I only know because I sent my friend a text, damn, this table's going to take me forever to put together at 12 o'clock. At 2:44, I texted her and I said, this damn table is finally together.
2:44 this morning? Yesterday afternoon.
Yesterday afternoon, yeah. Okay. I got home, I started it, and I'm one of those people, like, if I start it, I have to finish it, you know?
Oh, yeah. I wish I was like that.
So it was like 2.5 hours straight of me working on this table.
Ask anybody up here about the desk in my office.
See, I'll put it together for you.
No, it's together now, but, like, I'm never in my office. I'm in there now more because I have a desk, but there was a stretch for a couple months where I don't want to be in my office.
Yeah.
I either want to be out, like, learning more about what's going on in Baton Rouge or in the production room or, you know, I don't know, home with my wife and children, coaching fifth grade basketball.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was super delayed, too. I don't know.
Wayne says I'm super jealous. I'm jealous. Too many kids, no hiding spots in the house.
Oh, for your weed?
Yeah.
He just leaves it out for everybody to see.
Well, I mean, I throw it on the playroom floor. That's where all the rest of this shit is.
Everyone knows.
Right in the middle of all the Legos.
Yeah. And then that's why the Legos are everywhere, because he gets high and tries to do the Legos.
Right. Well, it hurts less when you step on them if you're high.
Fair enough. Weather.
Time to get a look at your forecast. Here is WBRZ meteorologist Marissa Nuzzo.
Just a touch. So yeah, my weed goes in the secret drawer. My pipes too, and bongs.
Mm-hmm.
What else do you use?
I wouldn't even know.
My rolling papers. Dun, 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 dun.
806 Talk 107.3 FM, WBRP. Mornings with Brian Haldane, rolling right along. Hour 3 coming your way right now. Looking forward to this. We got John Purdue on deck. He's going to be up in our next segment. There's been a lot of questions about storing carbon dioxide underneath Lake Maurepas. Are there any legitimate concerns here? Are there safety concerns? What could happen if the CO2 escapes? We'll talk with John Purdue in our next segment. Going to get you to this day in history in just a little bit. Two quick things, though. First of all, shout out to my fifth grade Mercy basketball team last night. They're all in school by now, so I'm probably a little bit late on this one. But great. Y'all, elementary and junior high basketball is just so much fun. There's so much screaming in that gym. But it was cool last night because in the game after our St. Jean Vianney came into play. And a listener comes up to me after the game, says, "Hey, you're Brian. I listen to you every morning." I'm like, I appreciate that. It was it's just such a fun atmosphere. It like as you see sports start to evolve or devolve to nothing but the money end of it, nothing but the NIL deals, nothing but the I'm opting out of this year because I don't want to get hurt to affect my draft status. Like that sours me on the idea of sport. To see sports played for the pure enjoyment of sport, the pushing yourself physically, like this, that I don't know. There's something great about it. So that was a fun time last night. Before we get you to this day in history, I want to remind you about the folks over at Mathern's Market. Game day this coming Saturday, 11 a.m. kickoff. Going to be plenty going on at Mathern's Market before and after the game. You know, when you have those early kickoffs, and we don't have them very often, your tailgate gets split in half. I mean, you know, you might be doing kegs and eggs for a little bit of breakfast beer, but after the game, what have you got going on? If you need to reload, refuel, swing by Mathern's Market. They're in the Nicholson Gateway Shopping Center right across the street from Tiger Stadium. It's a very short walk from Tiger Stadium. Just go reload on the beer, reload on everything you're going to be having for the rest of the day with your post-game tailgate. Swing on by Mathern's, and don't forget they're a Wonderful full-service grocery store every other day of the week as well. They've got the downtown location on 3rd and, of course, in the Nicholson Gateway Shopping Center. It's Mathern's Market. All right, time to roll back the clock. Time for this day in history. Let's roll. What do you got, Alondra? What's
I
happening?
got a quick note on the early game.
Mm-hmm.
If you want some breakfast, I know we already did Zealand, but remember she brought those bomb burritos?
Oh, that's right.
Those
No. So the burritos, but also the brisket
biscuit.
bacon. Yeah.
The biscuit was good, but those burritos are good for game day.
Yeah, they are.
Yeah.
A little on-the-go stuff.
Yeah.
Yep.
Those burritos were good.
Yeah.
But today, in 1683,
Ooh.
encouraged by William Penn's offer of 5,000 acres of land in the colony of Pennsylvania and the freedom to practice their religion, the first Mennonites arrive in America aboard the Concorde.
Mm-hmm.
They were among the first Germans to settle in the American colonies, and they had that. They founded the town Germantown, which is very creative.
Yeah. What do you want to name this? Germantown.
Germantown.
That's like, remember when we were on a string of nightclubs naming themselves after their street address?
No, but that's hilarious.
Like, this is Club 411. Okay, we're 411 on our street. Stop.
They're doing that with apartments now.
Stop. Ugh. Get a
Third
name.
Street apartments.
Yeah.
You know?
Way to name yourself Germantown.
Yeah. What should we call ourselves? Where'd we come from? Germany.
Yeah. We're
Germantown.
Germantown. Right. I'm like, they got the one guy in the back screaming, I'm all for Schnitzelberg.
In 1866, the brothers John and Simeon Reno staged the first train robbery in American history, making off with $13,000 from an Ohio and Mississippi Railroad train in Jackson County, Indiana.
Gotta love it. Gotta
Yeah.
love a good train robbery. The first train robbery.
Yeah. Can't do those now. We tried to come up with a way you could do them now, but we
What,
couldn't.
a train robbery?
Yeah, we were thinking of it one
Yeah,
time because
I
I
know.
think, who was it? Jesse James?
Yeah.
Yeah, we were talking about him.
Mhm.
In 1961, JFK advises Americans to build fallout shelters.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, Cold War,
we
you
weren't
know,
there.
imminent
I mean,
nuclear
yeah,
war.
Like, people in government make advisements all the time based off of the
Nobody
time and
listens.
place. So there was a time where Anthony Fauci said wear goggles so you don't get COVID through the eyes.
Yeah. They're
I think
COVID
a
through the
fallout shelter looks a little silly in 2022, like
Yeah.
in hindsight, but I mean, you don't want to get eye COVID.
I mean, we're probably going to get you should probably build fallout shelters again here soon.
You think?
I think.
Yeah.
I mean, we
I'm
just
with you.
sabotaged their pipelines, so. In 1976, John Hathaway completes 50,000, this goes with yesterday, 50,600-mile bicycle tour of every continent. So Dave yesterday hated his wife and said, I'm going to go
Yep.
circumnavigate the earth. John Hathaway biked the whole earth. So
Yep.
I don't know how many tennies he went through, or he probably hated his wife too.
Probably.
In 1993, after 9 seasons and 3 championships with the Chicago Bulls, Michael Jordan announces his retirement from the NBA. He returned later on March 18th, 1995, and led the Bulls to another 3 NBA titles.
Yeah, but you missed in between there what he did in between there.
What? Made
What?
the shoes?
No,
What?
in between that time, he helped the Toons beat the Monstars.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
Well,
don't forget
that wasn't that notable to me.
All right.
In 1996, Bob Dole and President Bill Clinton meet in their first debate.
Are you holding your pen like that because of Bob Dole? That's
Why I'm
not
doing
even.
that. Yeah, I
Bob
don't
Dole.
I don't know why I was.
Somebody
doing
stole
that.
Bob Dole's peanut butter.
I don't even know who Bob Dole is.
Whoa.
Bill Clinton.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah. In 2018, Khabib beats Conor McGregor by 4th round submission in UFC lightweight title fight in Vegas.
Good for him.
Instantly marred by ugly post-fight brawling incident.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I remember that was like a huge deal. We're like, Khabib beat Conor McGregor.
Anybody beating Conor McGregor.
You see Conor doing his little walk.
Mm-hmm.
Oh man. All right.
Got a couple
Birthdays.
more sports ones though.
Okay.
This day in 1882 was the first World Series game ever.
Whoa.
Yeah. Cincinnati beat Chicago.
Nice.
Yep. This day in 1911 was Cy Young's last game ever. Yeah, I know. And then this
How'd it
day,
go?
For Cy Young,
Yeah.
he loses 13-3, and still got an award named after him. Yeah. It was his 900. No. Yeah, his 906th game.
One game defined
Right.
you.
No, totally. Hey, on this day in 1969, and it's a shame I didn't bring this up before Hester was on the air. Mets beat the Braves 7-4. They win the pennant on this day in 1969. The Miracle Mets, as it were, for that year.
All right. Born on this day in 1846, George Westinghouse. He's an entrepreneur and engineer.
Mm-hmm.
In 1906, Janet Gaynor, the OG A Star Is Born.
Okay.
She was on it.
Okay.
1950, Thomas McClary from the Commodores. And in 1999, pretty boy, Trevor Lawrence.
There's nothing pretty about him. 1955, Tony Dungy. What? He looks like Mitch Kramer from Dazed and Confused.
He looks like a chick. I'm sorry.
Kyle Pitts, born on this day in 2000.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, Addison Rae was also born on this day in 2000. I know we all are huge fans
Yeah,
of
big on Addison Rae for sure.
Huge Addison Rae guy.
Yeah. We got death today.
Oh yeah. In 1841, George Childress, the author of the Texas Declaration of Independence.
Mm-hmm.
In 1989, Betty
Davis.
Oh, I was going off of like Bette Midler. You know, they spell it the same way.
Yeah. It's,
and well, why would you spell it like that if your name's Betty? Anyway. In 2019, Rip Taylor. And in 2020, Eddie Van Halen.
Anwar Sadat was assassinated on this day in 1981.
Egyptian president?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
It is National Badger Day.
Okay.
Badger don't care.
All right. That is this day in history. We're running long. Let's take a break. Come back. Let's talk a little bit about carbon sequestration next. Wayne says, oh, my God, you make me feel old. You don't know who Bob Dole is. What about Ross Perot? Do you know who Ross Perot is? Ross Perot is the only reason why you know who Bill Clinton is. Because if Ross Perot doesn't enter the 1992 presidential race, George Herbert Walker Bush wins the second term. If George Herbert Walker Bush wins the second term, then Bill Clinton's never president. Think about that. Jason says any contagion can be spread through the eyes, nose, and mouth. Okay, Jason. Did you wear goggles? Any luck on the Mike Rinder thing? 818 Talk 1073 FM WBRP. Mornings with Brian Haldane rolling right along. So there's a project in the works from Air Products. It's a $4.5 billion plant that would capture, compress, and liquefy carbon emissions before carrying it 37 miles via pipeline and injecting it about a mile below Lake Maurepas. A lot of people are up in arms about this. I wanted to get behind the science of it, and I know nobody better to talk to about this than Dr. John Purdue from LSU. Dr. Purdue, welcome back to Talk 1073. How are you, man?
Hey, Brian. Good to see you, man.
No, glad to have you back on again. I appreciate your time and insight this morning. Let's start with the basics. Storing carbon underground, does that pose any danger?
It can if it leaks out.
Okay.
Carbon dioxide is very acidic, and so it can cause trouble in the area right around where it would leak. And so injection wells do leak from time to time. And so there's a possibility, if we're not very rigorous about the way we approach this project, that there could be some issues, but they are quite rare. The types of failures that have happened in an injection well that would cause a problem in the surface water are rare.
So do we have enough sample size to determine how rare? Because reducing carbon emissions, it feels like these sorts of projects are still relatively new.
They are. In fact, this particular type of injection well, which is called a Type 6 well, there's only 2 of them in the United States. They're both in Illinois, and so there's a very, very small sample size of these kind of wells that are doing this project. We do similar kinds of things in Louisiana. We inject carbon dioxide for enhanced oil recovery, and we certainly have a lot of injection wells that are operated safely. But this is a totally different animal because we're saying we're going to inject this into subsurface and we want it to be there forever. And we don't want it to ever leak, over centuries. So it's a whole different kind of a thought process and a whole different type of a project than the types of injection wells that we have in the state so far.
I guess my next question is going to be about gravity. Because if something's already under the lake and then it leaks, wouldn't it go down from there and not up into the lake?
There's lots of different layers of the earth beneath the lake. And so the lake itself is maybe not as relevant as to what is in those layers, and the upcoming seismic work that they're going to do is going to establish whether it's actually a good spot to put this well. Mm-hmm. Normally when the wells leak, they leak up through the well itself, the concrete in the well that's there. But again, we would be fairly early adopters of this technology if this project moves forward.
What would be the negative effects on the lake if it were to leak into the lake?
It would cause a drop in pH. So it would be like in a Diet Coke or a Coke bottle where you've got a carbonic acid or that's there providing the fizz, very, very low pH. And that affects fish and the other wildlife that are there. So you would need to monitor, that area around there to make sure that none of the gas was leaking. And again, what's different about these projects is that monitoring is not just a few months, but it's really forever. You have to have in place the staff, the regulations to really follow this well into the future.
We're talking with Dr. John Purdue from LSU's Department of Civil and Environmental Engineering. Dr. Purdue, so how much wiggle room is there within the monitoring to where obviously we want to avoid killing everything in the lake. That seems like job number one, right? How much wiggle room is there before you would reach that tipping point?
Well, you would, it wouldn't cause any issues really until the water came, until the carbon dioxide left the well. And so ideally the well would be made in such a way, the concrete around the well would be made in such a way that it could be monitored, repaired over time, provided that the project moved forward and continued to operate. The question is, 10 years from now, 20 years from now, 50 years from now, when maybe the companies involved are no longer in business or they've been bought by other companies, how do we keep that idea? And if we do this one, we may do 10 more, or 50 more, or 100 more. How do we make sure that there's not unintended consequences in the future and that Louisiana is not holding the bag for all of this because we were an early adopter of this approach. So
No, absolutely. Yeah, there's all good things in moderation, right?
Right.
So, okay, the acidity level you're talking about, and comparing it to a Diet Coke, I just have this mental image of everybody going down to Lake Maurepas with a bunch of Mentos.
Yeah. I mean, it's that same approach. And fortunately, these failures, when they've ever happened, they've happened around the well itself, and so you can see it, right? If it happened out in the lake somewhere, you would maybe never know. A fisherman may report, bubbles coming up or whatever. But yeah, they tend to happen around the well, and there's been a number of these pilots and experiments that have been done at the field scale to test, what kind of cement to use, what are the issues over time. So there is some work that's been done, but in terms of a full-scale commercial operation, which is proposed in this project, it's rare. There are not many of them. But we need these projects. We need these projects to succeed because we're right on the front lines of climate change, and we need these carbon sequestration projects to be successful. So we're in kind of a catch-22. We need them to be successful because we're right on the front lines of sea level rise and all these other issues. But then we also want to make sure when we do them that we're not causing other problems.
Okay, so, and I want to get to the effectiveness of this in just a minute, because when it comes to curtailing carbon emissions, it's there's risk versus reward is got to be part of this. But the last question I want to ask about the site though is, why under a lake? Why wouldn't this be somewhere with like nothing else around and just dry ground?
It's a great question. I mean, one of the issues I think is you want to be north of I-10. If we look at long-term sea level rise, and if we do have the worst possible scenarios, where you have, sea level rise that moves up in that direction, we don't want to build these things, I think, south of I-10. So this site or the lake is, again, just north of the interstate. So you're up in elevation a bit away from the ocean. I don't know why you would, other than the lake, the geology underneath the lake may be ideal or suited for putting these injection wells there. So that's the only reason you would do it there. I mean, there's not the lake is sort of irrelevant because it's a mile, above where the CO2 would be injected, but it is. There must be a reason geologically why they want to put it there.
Yeah. Well, okay. So I said that was the last one on the site. And as a programming note, we're going to have some folks on from Air Products to talk about this project specifically in the very near future. So these are more general questions. But so if you're talking about sea rise, and then if the Gulf rises, Lake Pontchartrain is going to rise. If Lake Pontchartrain rises, Lake Maurepas is going to rise, right?
Right.
So if you're already under that, wouldn't that negate any of the effects there?
Well, it would. The idea would be that you're wanting to have the well not exposed to more salt water, more corrosiveness on the surface side,
Gotcha.
And so you'd want to make sure that was built up and out of the water as it rose. So slow sea level rise, you could respond to that by raising the level of the well and the level of the casing at the top. So that's why Lake Maurepas, why north of I-10. That would be my engineering reason, I guess, is why you would think about putting it in that location. But I'm sure they will have some answers. Air Products has operated in Louisiana for a long time. I'm sure they could give you more information on why there.
Okay, last two I've got for you, and we're probably going to run out of time. The next one is the effectiveness of carbon capture or projects like this. Just how much carbon can we capture, and how much impact can it have on the environment based off of like doing something like this project?
This project is really specific, right? They're making hydrogen, which is a clean fuel source that doesn't cause any impacts in the atmosphere. And to make the hydrogen, they're producing some CO2, and they have the capability, both from air gases, technical capability, but other things they actually can capture the CO2 as they're making the hydrogen. So that's unique. If we go to a power plant where we're burning natural gas or coal, the technologies are there to capture the carbon dioxide, but it's very expensive. It would drive utility bills really high. So we're trying to think of other cheaper ways to capture. Mm-hmm. But this is just a unique project in that we can capture it in a cost-effective way while we're making the hydrogen. So it's unique in that way. But these projects, as we more cheaply are able to do capture projects, then we're going to want to put it somewhere. And We can put a little in concrete, without affecting the ability of the concrete to work. But there's not a lot of other solutions of where we're going to inject this stuff, where we're going to store it. So these deep well projects are really the only thing that makes sense to a lot of scientists and engineers as a solution to where we put it.
Last one, and if we can get under a 60-second answer on this one, so we can get out before news. Last one is, what are the effects of carbon dioxide on the environment that caused the need for this in the first place? Why is this so detrimental to us?
Well, it causes, a heating effect, a change effect in the climate, with more of the radiation being reflected back to the Earth, and that's causing, again, record temperatures across the world, and the subsequent other environmental impacts that come from that, including sea level rise, the melting of the glaciers, the melting of the polar ice caps, and again, stronger storms as that water is warmer, as we saw last week.
He is Dr. John Purdue from Louisiana State University. I greatly, greatly appreciate the time and the insight. I know I ask rudimentary questions. This is so out of my field, but I appreciate your help on this one.
Fine, good luck. Thanks for your interest.
No, absolutely. Thank you. And likely going to have a follow-up on that one because just like when we were talking about I-10 in our last hour, the more questions come up, the more questions get answered, the more questions come up again. So, all right, we're going to take a quick break and then check in on CBS News. We'll check in on our own local news, traffic, and weather. When we come back from that break, we've got a lot more to go here on Mornings with Brian Haldane. In fact, we got a half an hour to go before we get out of here. Going to have a lot to talk about on the back end. Hey, don't forget to tune in tonight to Westwood One's coverage of the NFL right here on Talk 107.3 FM. Thursday night, Sunday night, and Monday Night Football coverage begins at 7 p.m. with Westwood One and the NFL to start your Week 5 in the NFL. All right, quick break for news. Coming back next on Talk 107.3 FM. Anything? It's okay. It's okay. Oh. Let's just go back to the Jeff Landry thing. I can do that again. Alec Baldwin. Well, I do need to at least mention that we're not going to it when we come back. Is Deborah from CBS or Your Money Now? I don't pay attention. So Jason got my joke then. I'm a bit old, but my best memories of Bob Dole and Ross Perot are from Norm Macdonald and Dana Carvey playing them on SNL. Yes. Huh? Somebody took Bob Dole's peanut butter. So they did a Norm Macdonald was doing the Bob Dole impression, but they put Bob Dole in the real world. MTV's The Real World. So, yeah. Oh, God. It was a great, great sketch. But, like, you got all these kids being kids, and then Bob Dole's being Bob Dole, and it was... And Dana Carvey did a thing where it was Ross Perot being interviewed by Larry King, and the whole thing. Can't I finish? Can't I finish? It's a lot like the John Kennedy impression, actually. It's just sad. You look at America right now, it's just sad. John Purdue is so good. I'm going to talk about that a little bit coming back in, too. Galen says global warming tests. How many states within the U.S. have set high temp records in the current century? Hint, it's lower than you think. Okay, so, and this is why I like to talk to scientists, because you get away from the political talking points a good bit, or you refuse to adopt science versus political talking points, however your takeaway is. But if it's about record temperatures, that's an aberration. Isn't it about the overall mean? I don't know. I don't want to get in a global warming argument, because that argument doesn't matter. It's where we're headed. Like the argument is over with. It's where we're headed.
Like that.
I am a little bit right. Well, yeah, but to side with Galen on this, we've been told for 50 years now that global warming is going to kill us all within 10 years. Yeah. We were told in the 70s global warming was going to kill us. The doomsday clock. We were told in the 80s that we were going to die from acid rain, and then went back to global warming again, and the global warming a third time, and then they shifted the goalposts to climate change. Yeah. And a lot of us are like, okay, if you're going to kill me, just kill me already. Like, I get the distrust and whatnot, but at the same time, the rising sea levels are a real thing.
No, it's real.
Right.
It's real.
Now,
they just like.
There's another part of this, that how much of it can we fix? Yeah. How much of it did we cause? How much of it can we fix? That part of it is that's where the debate begins. And there's one side that says, we have too many humans on the earth and we have to depopulate, which, Jesus Christ, get me away from those people. You know? Yeah. If your idea is to depopulate the earth, start with yourself.
See, and then there's people like Elon Musk who thinks we need to populate the earth more.
I don't understand that as a solution, but okay. But then there's other people that say, okay, I don't know how much we can control, but damn it, we have to try. Yeah. And those are the people I'm willing to support. Yeah. I might not agree with them, but I understand the arguments so far down the field, and I've got one more that I think Galen's going to love. At the end of the day, all this shit's going to make money. Yeah. If all of it's going to make money, then it's going to get sold.
That's what, bothers me is that, climate change, it's real, but it's inevitable. Like, you can try to prolong it as much as you want, but then you do things like outsource oil and get it from foreign places,
right?
Where their process isn't as clean as it is here. Like, who do we have on the other day that was
Garrett?
Scott and Gel, and he was telling us that the carbon emissions are like way cleaner and lower here, and the methane flaring and all that. We have the second cleanest carbon emissions or something. He was saying something, and it's like, well, then why do we not?
Yeah, if we do it better than everybody, then why aren't we doing it? But here's a case where we can be doing it, we can be leading the way, and people are still going to say no.
Yeah. Weather.
Was my gravity question too stupid? I feel like that was a stupid question. And that's the whole aim. All right, time to get a look at your forecast. We got another gorgeous day in store today. Not full on fall like temperatures, but man, when that humidity drops, we feel the effects, don't we? High of 87 today. Overnight low tonight gets down to 60. We top out at 90 tomorrow, so it will be a little bit warmer with an overnight low of 65. Looking ahead to game day Saturday, we got a high of 86, then back down to 58. Only 83 on Sunday and 84 on Monday. I talked about that humidity dropping. It is a little bit higher this morning than it was yesterday morning. 77% humidity, 69 degrees in downtown Baton Rouge. No, it's like the Tech Gumbo intro. 838 Talk 107.3 FM WBRP. Great stuff from Dr. John Purdue in that last segment. And we'll have the folks from Air Products on in very short order. Looking forward to that because they're the ones running this project. And when you listen to the John Purdue interview, we know exactly where we need to go with that one. And it's all about safety redundancies. It's all about making sure everything's secure. I was asking Alondra during the break if that question about gravity was too stupid. I mean, okay, there are times in life where we should all look in the mirror and say, I'm a little bit out of my depth. There are times in life where we should all look in the mirror and say, very humbly, I don't know. I could turn to someone else for the answers. I could turn to somebody else who's invested their life into learning about this stuff and defer. So that's what I did there. We got some more things to talk about here. I want to go back to Jeff Landry throwing his hat in the ring for governor. We'll do that in just a minute. Hey, I know I teased this on Twitter and I teased it at the beginning of the show. We've run into some audio technical difficulties. I recorded an interview with Mike Rinder yesterday, and we do not have it for you right here. It inevitable. Not inevitable. It stinks that we don't have it here. He's got a new book out. Let me go ahead and plug the book anyway. It's called A Billion Years, My Escape from a Life in the Higher Ranks of Scientology. I'm going to reach out to see if we can't get a mulligan on this one. We had an audio problem with it, therefore we're not able to play it for you here. But if you had tuned in for that, I do apologize. So not going to be able to get to Mike Rinder. Two topics we got to cover before the show is over with today. One of them goes back up to the lead of the show, and that is Attorney General Jeff Landry throwing his hat in the ring to run for governor. You heard the sound bites in our news just a moment ago, and we will revisit said sound bites in just a minute as our news partners over at the Louisiana Radio Network talked with Jeremy Alford from lawpolitics.com. And along with Jeff Landry running for governor, there's so many different things that are going to stack up here. Okay, let's just reset on the whole thing. Jeff Landry made the announcement yesterday. I believe the video was put out on Tuesday evening, but the formal announcement was made yesterday. Jeremy Alford says that, there are 3 Republican candidates who no one's going to be shocked. In fact, I wouldn't be surprised if they're already running. I mean, John Schroeder was the first one. He was at the press club a couple of months ago. I want to say this was like late June, early July. State Treasurer John Schroeder was at the press club, and it was announced that he was running for governor, but he didn't make the announcement. He was asked right after the meeting was over with, because it broke during the meeting. He was asked right after the meeting was over with, and this isn't a shot at John Schroeder, but it was a political answer. It was we're looking at all of our options, we're getting our ducks in a row type of answer. I think everybody assumes Billy Nungesser is running for that spot as well. Lieutenant Governor Billy Nungesser. And then you've got Jeff Landry throwing his hat in the ring officially this week. Alford says up until now, he's been running the whole time, or I guess until you officially announce you're just walking for governor.
For a couple of years now, aggressively fundraising, putting the pieces in place, and of course now he's kind of out the gate.
Out the gate, put out a little video to make that formal announcement. And you're first out leading up to next November's election.
Well, I think Jeff Landry is letting the other candidates that are possible candidates that are looking at this field know, that he intends to be the top dog in this race.
Okay, top dog maybe, first dog yes, as far as the official announcements are concerned. Now, this presents a number of different opportunities and challenges. From the opportunity side, if you're the first one in, you're the first one that starts raising money towards this. From the challenges side, if you're the first one in, you're the first one in the crosshairs. You are the first one that is a target. You are the first one that everybody else can take their shots at right now. Conversely, if you wait, let somebody else take a few of those hits, then okay. Once you hop in the race, you're going to have a shorter window with which to answer all the questions. Another part of this, when it comes to running this time around and being the first one in, is for all 3 of the guys on the Republican side that are running this time, there is a level of curiosity as to why they didn't run last time. If you weren't ready, fine, so be it. But if your take is, I didn't want to run against an incumbent, John Bell Edwards, does that or does that not leave a sour taste in your mouth? Especially when you turn right back around a few years later and say, look at me, I'm the first one in. Okay, you're the first one in, but you're like 3 years too late. Back to Jeremy Alford. He says Landry's got a deep and complex fundraising mechanism that extends into other states in Washington, D.C. His announcement means that the AG's race is now wide open for next year as well. So far, we're looking at Lake Charles Mayor Martin Maley, Crowley State Representative John Stefanski, and current state Solicitor General Liz Murrill. Alford says the state's high violent crime rate is going to make this AG race an important one.
I think there will be policy implications, possible implications for the way the department is structured, and that's all going to be discussed.
It is all going to be discussed, but think of that not in terms of the AG race. That AG race is going to be its own event, and we've had, I believe, all three of those candidates on this show in the past, so we know where to go to get them back on for next year as well. But stop with the AG's race for a second and move it back over to the governor's race. What are the biggest problems facing Louisiana right now? Are they financial? Are they leadership? Are they crime? Well, let's break this down. You've had the second in command for the state, Lieutenant Governor Billy Nungesser, who's done a phenomenal job with tourism. He managed tourism through COVID. Like, if that's not the number one thing he's telling you about every day, then he's doing himself a disservice. Also, Billy Nungesser from Southeast Louisiana. Hurricanes are going to continue to be a burden for us. If that's not the second thing he's telling you about, he's doing himself a disservice. If and when he throws his hat in the ring. How about money? Well, the state treasurer has done phenomenal things as well in his current role. If he's not leading every single day with shaping and forming how the treasurer's role looks at the coffers of the state, how the treasurer's role looks at the future of the state, if he's not leading with that financial start, then he's doing himself a disservice. And then from Jeff Landry's perspective, how about crime? It is number 1 or 2 on everybody's list of concerns in Louisiana. And if the AG doesn't lead with that, then shame on him for not leading with that. We've got a little bit of the video that Jeff Landry put out. Let's give it a look. We're going to let this run for as long as we can. We got Your Money Now coming up in about 3 minutes, but here we go.
When you look at the faces of the great people of our state, you see smiles, grateful for all that God has given us. Eyes that have seen the best in people, even while staring down the toughest of challenges.
Okay, if you're not watching on YouTube, you're missing all the visual here. Let me give a recap. Jeff Landry starts by saying, if you're looking at the faces of Louisiana, just to kind of let you know where that's at visually, it went black woman, white woman, senior citizen, male, pregnant woman, veteran, military veteran, and then a nurse after that. So pick it back up again, please.
You see fresh faces, excited for the future. And you see worry lines, deepened by concern for what's next. I'm Jeff Landry. People say that Louisiana is blessed with an abundance of natural resources. But I believe our greatest natural resource is its people. Our ancestors first came to this land 300 years ago. The small town I grew up in has a church at its core. It's where my parents taught me about faith, standing up for what you believe in, and caring for others. My mother was a school teacher. My dad, a small-town architect. We lived through the oil bust of the 80s, which turned middle-class families like ours into families struggling to get by. Times were tough, but we had faith and we had each other. I went to work right after high school in the sugarcane fields and proudly joined the National Guard, serving in Operation Desert Storm. I worked my way through college as a police officer and sheriff's deputy. Working in law enforcement, I saw the best and the worst a community has to offer. I went on to start a successful business with a friend and saw firsthand the impact of government regulations on small businesses. That's when I decided to go to law school, to stand up for business owners and help them succeed in the face of big government. Digging ditches in a sugarcane field, serving our country, working nights as an officer, starting a business. raising a family. I have walked in the very shoes of the people who struggle way more than they should in a state as blessed as this one. My next step was a big one that no one thought I could do. I was just a regular guy involved in my community, an outsider, a new face, a Cajun that would shock the Louisiana political establishment. When I ran for and won a seat in Congress.
All right, let's pause it there because we're going to run out of time before news. Okay, so first of all, fantastically made video. Not to get too deep in the the behind the scenes political world, the marketing and consulting world, but fantastically made video. But what he lays out right there, okay, he hits all the demographic boxes with the representation of Louisiana, lays out his resume up to, and we got to the part where he runs for and wins a congressional seat. But now that he's out there, now that video's out there, don't think that every political consultant that's not already working for Jeff Landry isn't picking that thing apart frame by frame. Don't think they don't have that video on a Madden-style telestrator circling every little mistake with it, and he's going to be in the crosshairs first. All right, quick break. We got your money now, then traffic. Very well-made video. So, okay, I'm not tooting my own horn here because this is the part I hate about myself the most. That's something I'm very, very good at and probably should have made a living doing it, but I hate myself every day for it. It's no. First candidate means your crosshairs first, but you have more runway to bounce back. That's true as well. Jason says, that's what Bill Burr says, and I kind of agree, too. Bill says if we get the numbers down low, I'm talking about depopulating the world, get the numbers down low enough, then we can all go to the Super Bowl. Is Bill Burr the one that has the bit about cruise ships? Like, hey, look, I'm waiting for the politician that has the balls to stand up and says, look, 70% of you got to go. Let's put them all on a big cruise ship, feed them a bunch of buffet, lather them up with drinks, and then just sink it. Bill Burr, like, is low-key genius. Mm-hmm. Are you your mic off again? Are you on?
Yes.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Randomness. Bad TV. Horrible television. You were watching Theo Vaughn.
And he was saying how something about like I'll go weeks not looking in the mirror. I went like 4 months not ever seeing my legs. I'm like who says shit like that? Like he cracks me up.
He was on Joe Rogan, and
oh yeah,
I talked to Theo. I texted back and forth with Theo last week.
Oh yeah, tell me more.
No, can't tell you more. I'll tell you more on Monday.
Yeah. I already know.
Yeah, no, I know you know. Wait, don't understand what you mean. What do you mean? Don't understand what you mean? Me or Alondra? Anyway, he's talking about the. He's that friend. I had a friend growing up tried to fast the gay out of him. He said, Joe Rogan says, how long did he go? He's like, I don't know, man, 40 days, 20 days, I don't know. And Rogan says, did he lose any weight? He's like, oh man, he was nothing but ribs and dick afterwards.
Like he says the dumbest things that I'm like, how do you even think of that?
Ribs and dick.
Ribs and dick. That's my favorite combo at TJ Ribs.
Yeah, skip the brisket.
Yeah.
I'm going with the
Give
Timmy.
me ribs and dick.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. He was like, I went like 4 months not seeing my legs.
What up, yo? Oh, you know, we're learning the bugs.
I got some issues that already came up. I texted you one of them.
Well, one spot's expired because it has outdated information in it.
Okay. Also, Top Stories and Trending went back to the old one, where it's sponsored by Complete Collision. So did the Outside In. It was sponsored by BRPT.
Yeah.
Like the traffic bed, when I click it, it's like 5 seconds and then it starts playing. The same thing with the top.
Just need to redub some of the stuff.
Okay.
Yep.
I just remember you
what-
emailed us that yesterday, so I was just like,
Yeah,
Yep,
because
yep.
a lot of it, the updates come through.
Yeah.
And what it's supposed to do is like everything has a file, and it's supposed to like gradually, but it should do it way faster.
Yeah.
Like, now this is back available again. I don't know why it would go back to an older version.
It did. Yeah.
But the stop
But,
that
like,
you sent me.
All right. Hey, so just for the YouTube audience tomorrow, we are switching from Family Feud Friday tomorrow to a little bit of trivia. We're gonna pick a decade over the last 40 years.
Okay, give me y'all's decade now that y'all want to do.
Yeah.
Give me y'all can pick the decade. What was it? 80s, 90s, thousands, and tens.
Yeah.
So between 80s to the tens, what do y'all want to do?
Isn't it weird that there's trivia questions about the 2010s?
Yeah, that is weird. I don't like that. That makes me feel old.
Yeah. Did I have another live I haven't done yet?
You did Matherns, you did Zealand, you did Complete Collision, St. James. That's it. Right?
Yep. 856 Talk 107.3 FM WBRP. Oh, before we get out of here, so yesterday we gave away 2 tickets to the Beach Boys concert from last night, right? Well, yeah, we gave them away on YouTube. We gave them away to a YouTube viewer, and he went to the concert. He messaged me a pic from the concert last night and said, "I am the youngest person here." Do you know what the pic was of? It was of the bus from St. James Place. The bus from St. James Place was at the Beach Boys concert last night. Hey, I tell you every day about independent living over at St. James Place. It's not just a nursing home. There's so much more to it. How about that for the social calendar? Let's go hop on the bus and check out the Beach Boys. 215-4500 if you're looking at entering that chapter of your life, including retirement. It's a surfing safari over at St. James Place. You're going to have fun till Daddy takes the T-Bird away at St. James Place. Check them out online, stjamesplace.org. I got the biggest kick out of that. So shout out to Patrick. I'm glad you had a good time, but I had a good time when you sent me that photo. I mean, it's a win-win, right? I mean, if you're a resident at St. James Place, it's like, okay, we're going to the River Center to see the Beach Boys play. No, we don't have to worry about driving. Like, I mean, you know, they might be throwing a few back. I don't know.
They got all dolled up.
They got all gussied up.
They put their pearls on.
They did. They got all gussied up, put their pearls on, head on over to see the Beach Boys. That might be the best live read or the worst live read ever, but St. James Place, live life well.
That's too good, man.
Isn't it though? Like
St. James bus at the Beach Boys.
Right? Now, but now I'm going to be on the lookout for it everywhere else. Now I want to know where
I didn't even know they had a bus.
Oh, they got a bus. Oh, so
Party bus.
When I went over there, we toured the whole campus. We sat on the bus. Yeah. But now we'd be on the lookout.
Got speakers blasting Beach Boys on the bus.
Where's the St. James Place bus could be rolling out next? That's what I want to know. I was like low key jealous. I was like, oh man, that feels like fun. I showed it to my wife. She's like, oh, I'm totally missing out. So anyway, stjamesplace.org. We've got 1 minute left. I don't think there's enough time to do this topic justice. I wanted to get back around to filming can now resume on Rust. Not actual Rust, the film Rust, the Alec Baldwin film that got shut down when, he shot someone to death. So that lawsuit's been settled. Let's go ahead and leave it this way with a question. The lawsuit's been settled and filming's resuming. Should they have walked away from this project altogether? Is everything about this film now going to be tainted because a woman died in the making of it? Is any film worth death in the making of it? Different scenario.
He got shot on set.
No, he did. But no. Did he get shot on set?
I think he got shot.
We're going to have to look that up. But
yeah,
is this film...
I could be wrong.
Is this film tainted because of what happened? I hate to leave on a question, but that's where we're at. Fox News Rundown's next.
It was like a projectile or something like that?
I don't remember. It was a long-ass time ago, and The Crow was a badass movie, and Brandon Lee was cursed to begin with. All right, so before we get out of here, let me leave with this unbelievably macabre thought. This film's going to make billions of dollars.
Love macabre.
This film is going to make so much money. From the number of cinephiles that are going to go to see if they could figure out what was filmed before death and what was filmed afterwards. Like, and this isn't like having two different Darrens on Bewitched. Like, the number of people who are going to show up just to see, I want to know what Helena Hutchins filmed and then what Matthew picked up after the fact.
Yeah, he was shot.
I want to see if I can find this. Oh, so Brandon Lee was shot?
Yeah.
Okay. I want to see if I can find the scene where it happened. The number of morbid, morose MFers, that's my best alliteration today.
Yeah.
Morbid, morose MFers that are going to show up just so they can see Alec Baldwin point the gun at the camera and know this is when she died.
That's very true. People are into stuff like that.
How many people are going to show up exactly and only for that?
I think it's weird that there is a whole... Well, okay, this part's not weird. I understand him suing and all that. Like, I understand the lawsuit. I understand, like, wanting justice for your wife. All that. I get that. So you get it. You settle the lawsuit. Mm-hmm. And then now you're, like, restarting the movie and producing it now. Like, that's a little strange to me.
That is so sketch as well to say, like...
People grieve different ways. I get it.
No, I know. But sitting in the chair,
weird.
They probably got a new chair. Not like
they probably put his name instead of her name.
Right?
There. Yeah.
Right? Or the Helena Memorial chair, whatever. Yeah. But, like... Yeah, I want to have closure on my wife's death, and the only way to do that is by reliving her last day every single day for a certain period of time.
It's like Groundhog's Day, but
it doesn't make any sense. Anyway, let's see. Byron says, I met the lady who was shot. She was a sweetheart.
What do y'all want to do?
Oh yeah, we didn't get any feedback on that.
Okay, I guess y'all don't care.
Trivia tomorrow. We're tabling Family Feud for a minute. We're gonna go trivia tomorrow. So we have trivia on the 80s, the 90s, the 2000s, and the 2010s. Now, setting aside how weird is it to say we have trivia about the 2010s? Yeah, but setting that aside, which decade should we do tomorrow?
Of that group?
Yes.
Like back and then forward or back?
So start with the 80s.
Or start with the 2010s.
And then go back to the 80s.
All right.
I would think that would be a way to, people
mix it up.
Last week I didn't know anything.
Right.
I know this week.
Yeah.
Just jumping randomly around.
Yeah, true.
2010s. The 2010s were 50 years ago because COVID was 48 years. So. That's
the COVID years. There's dog years and then there's COVID years.
We got the 2 years of our life.
That apparently lasts 4 years.
Hey, Byron says that that Helena Hutchins did the cinematography for a film called Darlin that was shot here in Louisiana.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah, unbelievable. All right, so we're going to go do 2010s trivia tomorrow, y'all, and we will see you then. I got to skedaddle. I've got an interview with an Obama speechwriter coming up in about 6 minutes.